Key conditions across northern Scotland as the snow peps up here during the night. Significant covering in some places, and further showers coming into western Scotland may well turn things quite icy here. So that combination of snow and ice problematic across Scotland as we go to first thing Friday morning. Further south, just generally staying dry and clear and very frosty first thing on Friday morning. Still those snow showers coming in across northern Scotland for a time on Friday morning. Potentially quite icy across parts of northwest England too, as the showers coming here tomorrow. A mixture of rain, sleet and a bit of hill snow in those. Again, much of the south will be dry tomorrow with plenty of sunshine, but again, it's going to be cold everywhere.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could be joining the Great British Giveaway list of winners with your chance to grab a fantastic £50,000 in tax-free cash.
My name is Cliff.
And my name is Julie, and we won 25,000. I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Britain's Newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
It's about Generation Z spending 6 hours a day online. Generation Z, which age group is that?
16 to 24.
OK, great.
Now, this could explain why there's 1 million young people aged between 16 and 24.
100%.
Not working.
Work.
Yeah.
And I did a TV show and we're talking about it, and the lefty person I was on with was making excuses for the fact that we've got 9 million people unemployed. And this woman, this mom, rang in and she was hilarious. And I thought she was going to have a go at me. She said, Carol Malone. I thought, here we go, another one. And she goes, you are absolutely right. She said, I've just thrown my son out of the house, who's 24. She said, my husband and I, she said, we worked all our lives, 2 jobs, to get him to college, to get him to a private school. Yeah. She said, he hasn't worked a day.
No.
And his attitude was, why should I? And you think, and she said he spends all day online.
On his phone.
That's all he's
because
doing.
we would have gone to get a job because we were bored. And the trouble is, Jonathan, the younger generation are never, ever bored because the algorithms keep them stimulating.
Well, the dopamine hits keep coming. I think it's actually a problem for all of us. Yeah. You know, now for anyone, if you just have a moment to yourself, a lot of people of all ages, what do we reach for? We reach for our phones, particularly for those. Obviously, if we're with a friend, we'll talk to them.
Your age group, you're not talking about...
Well, I know that. I've spoken to a lot of people who are in their 50s and 60s who also will just, you know, if they have a free month on the tube or whatever, they'll just look at their phone and read. And it's actually terrifying because on the iPhone every Monday it tells you how much time you spent on your phone the previous week, and it's
for you?
On average per day?
Fair few hours. I mean, a lot of that will be work.
Give us a ballpark. Oh, more than 5?
Occasionally 5, yeah.
Well,
better things to do.
Spending 6 hours a day.
Do you never read a book?
Well, that'll be at night time.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 3 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News. We're broadcasting live for you all across the UK. On today's show, Labour's grooming gang shame. The Labour Party has caused an international backlash after GB News' Charlie Peters revealed it will block a full inquiry into the Oldham grooming gang scandal. On today's show, I'll speak to an Oldham councillor who fought for that inquiry and blew the whistle, and also the whistleblower and the campaigner, the peerless Maggie Oliver, and also a police and crime commissioner who's called the decision, which is based on money she thinks, as utterly shameful. And after a terrorist killed 15 and hospitalised 35 others in New Orleans on New Year's morning, the FBI are now investigating a link between a car bomb that exploded outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. We'll bring you all of the latest. And in the latest attempt to smash the gangs, the government has threatened to close down their social media accounts of the people smugglers. Seriously, will that kind of clampdown really strike terror into the hearts of the world's most evil criminals? And with freezing weather, snow and floods set to blast Britain, and once again, gas prices are set to soar. Millions of British pensioners who lost their winter fuel allowance will be hit with the perfect storm. I'll speak to the founder of thepensionervote.com, who tells me British pensioners are terrified. And that's all coming up in your next hour. Once the show, it's a pleasure to have your company. Britain's shame is what the grooming gang scandal has been called. Institutional failure of every level, the political level, the media level, the police level, putting a blind eye, turning away from these awkward truths. And now, finally, fresh bad news. An inquiry in Oldham has been rejected by the safeguarding minister of the Labour Party. It's an astonishing decision and one exposed by Charlie Peters here on GB News. It's gone around the world. We'll be debating that throughout the show. This cannot be allowed to continue. We must do all we can to get justice for survivors. Get in touch with your thoughts, gbnews.com/your say. But first is your headlines with Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you and good afternoon to you. 2 minutes past 3. The top story, well, will start in the United States, where authorities say they do now believe that multiple people were involved in a truck attack that killed 15 people and injured dozens on New Year's Day in New Orleans. The driver, Shamsuddin Jabbar, was killed in a shootout with police, and an ISIS flag was found in his vehicle. There's been no claim of responsibility, but Islamic State supporters are widely celebrating online. Victims include a former Princeton football star and an aspiring nurse, being confirmed, though their identities not yet. President Biden addressed a press conference overnight.
The FBI has reported to me the killer was an American citizen, born in Texas. He served in the United States Army on active duty for many years. He also served in the Army Reserve until a few years ago. The FBI also reported to me that mere hours before the attack, he posted videos on social media indicating that he was inspired by ISIS, expressing a desire to kill, The ISIS flag was found in his vehicle, which he rented to conduct this attack.
Meanwhile, police are investigating any possible links to a separate explosion in Las Vegas just hours later, after a Tesla Cybertruck filled with fuel canisters and fireworks exploded outside the Trump Hotel there. Well, the driver was killed and 7 people were injured, but none of the individuals involved have been named so far. In response, the incoming President Donald Trump posted on his platform Truth Social saying our country is a disaster, a laughingstock all over the world, and he went on to blame open borders, but said that his leadership will stop the chaos. Breaking news from the Metropolitan Police this hour that a murder inquiry is now underway after a man injured in a Christmas Day collision on Shaftesbury Avenue in London has died. Adrian Chapman passed away on New Year's Eve, and police are now treating his death as murder. The 25-year-old's parents say they're devastated and described him as loving, funny and kind. A 30-year-old man already charged with multiple offences is still in custody, and police say they are now appealing for witnesses or footage from the incident. Suspected people smugglers will face travel bans, social media blackouts and restrictions on phone usage under tough new laws to dismantle organised immigration crime networks. The Home Office says that an upgrade to serious crime prevention orders, new interim orders, will allow immediate action to disrupt and deter suspected serious criminality. Ministers say the orders are part of a stronger approach to organised crime, which will form part of the Border Security, Asylum and Immigration Bill. The number of migrants arriving to the UK in small boats is up by a quarter, as nearly 37,000 made the journey last year. Well, Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp spoke to us earlier here on GB News.
This is the same government, of course, the same Labour Party who voted against life sentences for those very same gangs when they were in opposition. And on their watch, since the election, now 6 months ago, illegal immigration across the Channel has gone up by 29% compared to last year. And I think it was a huge mistake of Labour to scrap the Rwanda deterrent before it even started. The first flight was due to take off on the 24th of July, and Labour cancelled it before that plane had a chance to leave. And I think if that had started, then we would see the numbers dramatically reducing.
In response, though, the Immigration Minister, Seema Malhotra, says the plans will help smash the gangs.
These new measures will be an invaluable tool in helping tackle the criminal people smuggling gangs who are undermining our border security and putting lives at risk. And in the process, stopping them being able to, for example, destroy evidence or change their tactics if they know that law enforcement agencies are onto them. This is a really important part. It's a core foundation of our plan for change to ensure that we are strengthening our border security and stopping those criminal gangs who are putting lives at risk. These interim orders are about being able to act much more quickly against potential people smugglers. These are criminal gangs that are undermining our border security and putting lives at risk, and they must be stopped.
And the UK Health Security Agency has issued cold weather health alerts across much of England ahead of a week of low temperatures, with those issued from midday today right through until the 8th of January. It comes as snow is forecast to arrive, with warnings in place over the course of 3 days for much of the UK as temperatures are set to plunge. A Met Office yellow warning for snow has been issued for all of England and Wales and parts of Scotland this weekend, with icy conditions forecast to continue into Monday. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you in half an hour. Now, though, it's over to Martin.
Thank you, Sam. Excellent as ever. Now, the Labour Party has caused an international backlash after Charlie Peters from GBNews revealed it would block a full inquiry into the Oldham grooming gang scandal. Elon Musk even attacked the decision as disgraceful, while Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch said a full national inquiry into rape gangs was long overdue, although they didn't put one into place in 14 years in power. Jess Phillips, Labour's safeguarding minister, insisted it was for Oldham Council alone to decide whether to launch an investigation into the alleged exploitation between 2011 and 2014. Well, joining us now is the man who broke this exclusive story, GBNews' national reporter, Charlie Peters. Charlie, Britain's shame is what you dubbed the grooming gang scandal, and many today believe the shame has got worse.
Yeah, Martin, I think they're right to say that, and I think they're right to think that, because this delay is a continuous part of a symptom of just ignoring this crisis that we've seen time and time again. Now, Oldham Council made this request after many years of campaigning from survivors in the town and some politicians calling for a new independent inquiry because they were not satisfied with the one that was locally organised in 2022. Its terms of reference were too brief, 2011 to 2014. So many survivors in the town said and have told me that they don't believe it was sufficient. There's more to uncover, there's more to reveal. And in their letter to the Home Secretary and to the Home Office, requesting this review as voted on by the council, they say that, we don't think we can do this. We need the government to intervene. But in a letter that GBNews has seen exclusively from Jess Phillips to the council executive, she says that she believes it's right for the council to organise their own inquiry. But that's the point, Martin. As I just said, they've done their own. It didn't complete a sufficient amount of recovery. It didn't look into the issue sufficiently, and it did not deliver that sense of justice, palpable justice that so many survivors feel as though they need. They always say justice delayed is justice denied. And another aspect of this really quite upsetting scandal is that Jess Phillips's response came in October. Now, the first letter from the Oldham executive went out over 3 months before that, in mid-July. She spent a long time dithering on this decision. She apologised in her letter after they chased her up again in October, urging a response. Now, can you imagine being one of those survivors, waiting decades for the government government to take a look at this crisis. They demand support. They send a letter down to the Home Office and they just ignore it for a quarter of a year and then finally get back to say, no, sorry, do it again yourself. It's just not good enough for the survivors. That's what they're telling me this morning. They're very distressed at this situation. But as you said, Martin, this story, since we broke it on GBNews last night, it's gone global. Elon Musk getting involved, Kemi Badenoch as the leader of the opposition. We've also seen Rupert Lowe and other politicians demanding now a national inquiry. They think that it's not good enough just to have the government intervene in Oldham. We found at GB News at least 40 different towns and cities where there are credible reports of this sort of scandal and this sort of on-street grooming abuse taking place. And a lot of people say that we just haven't had the sort of investigation that this country needs. Now, we had an independent inquiry into child sexual abuse in 2022. People may point to that. But look, Martin, it's 400 pages long, that report. It mentions Rotherham just once. And when they looked at grooming gangs and child abuse gangs in the report, they went to lots and lots of towns, but none of them are among that 40 of the credible reports of towns and cities where we've seen this sort of abuse taking place. They just didn't look at the problem. And so that's why I think finally we're seeing people waking up to the fact that we've never really reckoned with this crisis as a country. More and more people are just saying that enough is enough. And any attempts to sideline this, push it away, ignore it, and not have that sort of public inquiry, well, it's just not good enough anymore.
Charlie Peters, a lot of people will say to this, how on earth can the government's safeguarding minister, Jess Phillips, who's put herself forward for years and years as a champion of ending violence against women and girls, how can a full inquiry not help her position? How can it not help get rid of that suspicion that politicians would rather look the other way when inconvenient truths are encountered? Because as you've been saying for many years, as I have too in my work previously to GB News even, we know this is a majority Pakistani problem, Pakistani men problem. They don't want to deal with that issue. Is it because they're afraid of the outcome? Is it because actually there could be a political fallout of previous Labour ministers in the area, or even going as far as the Prime Minister?
Well, it's certainly a very difficult topic for centre-left or left-wing politicians, because fundamentally the grooming gang scandal, it does strike right at the heart of the multiculturalism argument and people who are in favour of the statement diversity is our greatest strength, because it really does pull on the strings of that theory. It causes a lot of difficult questions for people who think that Britain really is a thriving multicultural democracy. I think those 40 different towns and cities show just how often that isn't the case, that people prioritise so-called community cohesion over justice for children who are being abused. That's completely intolerable. I have to say that in the letter that I've seen from Jess Phillips to the council executive, she says that she understands the strength of feeling about this issue in Oldham, but then goes on to say that the council should do it themselves. She points to reports conducted locally in Telford, for example, where there was a barrister-led review. Now, I understand it that the Oldham authorities are now in touch with Telford to organise and facilitate a Telford-style review in their own town. But what's fundamental to this point is that Oldham themselves have said, we don't think we can do this, right? Yep. People in the town don't trust the council and its executive to get this right. They want that independent oversight, truly independent, to answer all of those questions that you're pointing at, Martin, and to ensure that everyone who needs to be held accountable is, because in all the reports that we've had and all the reviews across the country, that's never happened. People have failed obscenely and they've never truly been held to account. Or maybe with this renewed focus we're seeing from a lot of commentators, a lot of politicians, we may finally now see a truly national effort to blow the lid off this appalling scandal.
Charlie Peters, you've done more than your fair share to make sure this doesn't go away. Thank you very, very much for your sterling work. As ever, you've certainly put the cat amongst the pigeons. Well done, my wonderful colleague. Thank you. And let's continue this conversation now with the former Labour Minister, Ivor Kaplan. Ivor, welcome to the show. I'll ask the same question to you as I just asked to Charlie Peters. There's a lot of suspicion around politicians, particularly those from the Labour Party. It has to be said, it's not uniquely a Labour Party issue, but predominantly it is, that politicians would rather turn the other way rather than ask difficult questions. Why on earth would the safeguarding minister not say yes to put this to bed, to end that suspicion once and for all? It is time for a full national inquiry. People are calling this decision shameful. What's your take?
I think what Jess has been trying to do there is to make sure that where you need it, and in this case in that one issue, that it was better to give it back to the council. Now, I'm someone who over years and years has said councils should be doing this sort of thing when they need to do it. And they can themselves bring in people from the law and all those sorts of things. But at some point, a council like this one needs to take a responsibility for things that have happened in its area. It hasn't done that before. It hasn't had to do that before.
But Ivor, what if that council in the past turned a blind eye? What if that council in the past was a part of the problem? What if politicians in the area turned a blind eye because they were too afraid of being called racist? How can we trust those kind of people to mark their own homework? That's the point.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Martin, and I'm not going away from that. I mean, the Conservative Party had 14 years to do something about it, and it didn't do very much about it in that period of time. And we have to say that because 6 months is not 14 years. And there are reasons.
But it's a Labour council, and now it's a Labour government. I agree. Something should have happened in 14 years. It didn't. We are here, we are now, and it's the Labour Party that have said no.
Yeah. And what I'm saying is that I think in this situation, that Jess took a different view to the one that she might have wanted to have a conversation with other people in that particular council. It's very, very difficult period of time. We know that, but there has to be something that takes people forward in some of those areas in parts of the north of England, which have been very difficult to manage for councils and for the national situation. And we can safely say that because of what has happened in those 14 years before, before the one we're in now.
What would you say to people today who look at this and think the Labour Party don't want to do a full national inquiry because it actually might point the finger at Labour politicians?
I would hope that wouldn't be the case, to be honest, but I understand.
So why not be transparent?
If you have been councillors and you're now in a very difficult position, wherever that is, then if we were to have a national look at this whole situation, then that very well could happen.
OK, thank you very much for joining us today, former Labour Minister Ivor Kaplan, and a very happy new year to you. I'm pleased to say I'm now joined by the Oldham councillor, Brian Hobbin. Brian, welcome to the show. You were one of those councillors locally who fought very hard to get this inquiry on the table, to get it asked for at a national level. In fact, as I understand it, Brian, it was a key issue in the local Labour Party agreeing to go ahead because they were facing wipeout in the elections in May. Now, this has come through today, this news. How does it make you feel?
I'm still the same here in Oldham, Martin. We've been trying for this for 5-6 years. We finally got the breakthrough because of the numbers at Oldham Council and the way the Labour Party lost their vote, and we finally got this motion to come through. We were aware that it took Jess so long to respond. We were aware of Jess's answer. It was disappointing, but we said we had a plan B, which would be the Telford style. Now, of course, it's back, which is great that it's back in the public. They're back on the agenda, thanks to GBNews as well, that people are talking about this. If we can get, in some kind of way, if we can get back to the Home Office, back in this full public inquiry, then that's even better for us up here.
Do you think that's going to happen, though? I mean, the mood music we're hearing here is, look, this is a local problem. There needs to be a local solution. But, Brian, am I correct in saying there might be a lot of people around Oldham Council, past and present, who don't want the truth to come out? Can the council be trusted to mark its own homework?
Well, that could be levelled at us, Martin. I think the people that are working with these survivors now to get at least some kind of inquiry, I have faith in them to do the right thing and to open up the inquiry as far and as deep as it needs to go. But that can't be taken away from the fact that if it was a Home Office-led inquiry, they could have more powers, dig even deeper, and maybe find even more of the truth that we need out in.
Brian, some people today have been calling the Labour Party's decision as shameful. Would you agree with that?
Yes, you could call it that, Martin. But I think the politics need to come out of this as well, because and I noticed your previous speaker mentioning 14 years of Conservative rule, and I don't want it to be a political football. But we have tried the Home Office when the Conservatives were in power, and they gave us the same answer as Jess Phillips. So none of the Westminster politicians are coming out good in this at all, Martin. If they have had 14 years to do something and done nothing, but that doesn't excuse anybody. It should be, like it is now, being talked about nationally, and a full public inquiry would be the absolute best solution for the survivors. And they're the people that we should be thinking of.
Brian Hobbin, thank you very much for joining us today. Thanks for all the work you do for the council. I know you're a proudly independent councillor. You went independent to get around this political nonsense that you've just been talking about. Keep soldiering on, and we'll do our very, very best to keep assisting you here at GB News. Thank you very, very much for joining us today. That's Oldham Council, one of the whistleblowers who demanded this report, Brian Hobbin there from Oldham. Thank you very much. Now, a Home Office spokesman has said this: no child should ever suffer sexual abuse or exploitation. Everyone who is responsible for children's welfare must learn from past mistakes and do everything possible to prevent future failures. And the Safeguarding Minister, Jess Phillips, responded to the Council's request, acknowledging the strength of feeling that a further inquiry into child sex exploitation in Oldham should be undertaken. In letters to the Council Executive, Phillips apologised for delays in responding, but maintained that local authorities should take the lead, saying it is for Oldham Council alone to decide to commission an inquiry into child sexual exploitation locally, rather than for the government to intervene. And she welcomed the Council's resolution to continue its work with victims and survivors. And GB News also understands that Oldham Council has since made contact with Telford, as just confirmed there by Brian, which face similar issues, to explore various inquiry options. At last, something seems to be moving ahead. Now, coming next, America is mourning 15 dead after a man drove a car into New Year's revellers in New Orleans. We'll bring you all the very latest on that situation with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News, Business News Channel.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Restaurant St. Bart's executive head chef Johnny Crowe creates ramen with a British twist, using only the finest UK-sourced produce. As the only restaurant in London to hold both a Michelin star and a green Michelin star, St. Bart's emphasises sustainability and the diversity of British ingredients. Johnny joins me now. Johnny, congratulations on having these 2 Michelins. How do you get a Michelin green star?
Probably a better question for the inspectors, but I mean, I think it's down to a lot of hard work.
What hoops do you have to go through?
So I think it's working every day on it. The sustainability isn't something that you just achieve and then therefore you have it and you can sort of relax. It's about every day trying to be better, trying to make a restaurant and a business that is overly sustainable.
So what things do you do to make it sustainable?
One of the main things that we've really tried to do is focusing on British produce, and actually, you know, part of that is about sustainability and food miles. A massive part of it for us was also about sort of helping the British economy and the farming economy and our fisheries as well. But yeah, no, the idea...
You have a lot of farms near St. Bart's, which is in the heart of the City of London.
Well, funnily enough, there's an amazing collective called Shrub Provisions, who we use a hell of a lot, who work with farmers all around East Sussex. So it makes a difference from flying it in from Kenya or somewhere else like that. But No, like a big part of it was, one, using British produce to cut down on food miles, but also helping sustain our farming industry.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back. 3 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, after a terrorist killed 15 and hospitalised at least 35 others in New Orleans by driving a car into New Year's revellers, the FBI has named the main suspect as US citizen Shamsa Din Bahar Jabbar, who previously served in the US Army. And they have also said an Islamic State group flag was found in the vehicle, and they are investigating the attack as an act of terrorism. Now, President Biden addressed a press conference overnight.
The FBI has reported to me the killer was an American citizen, born in Texas. He served in the United States Army on active duty for many years. He also served in the Army Reserve until a few years ago. The FBI also reported to me that mere hours before the attack, he posted videos on social media indicating that he was inspired by ISIS, expressing a desire to kill. The ISIS flag was found in his vehicle, which he rented to conduct this attack.
Meanwhile, in Las Vegas, one person has died and 7 further have been injured after a Tesla Cybertruck exploded outside Donald Trump's Las Vegas hotel. Authorities are investigating whether the 2 incidents are linked, as it has been reported that the man responsible for the explosion served in the same military base as the New Orleans terrorist. Now, in response, incoming President Trump posted on Truth Social, "Our country is a disaster, a laughingstock all over the West. This is what happens when you have open borders with weak, ineffective and virtually non-existent leadership." And he ended with, "Only strength and powerful leadership will stop it. I'll see you on January the 20th. Well, we've got some live pictures now from the area. I think it's from Las Vegas, or is it from New Orleans? We've got some live pictures of this incident. I'm just going to go through some of the main facts now. It broke yesterday on this show. It was an astonishing story. 15 being hit. This is Las Vegas now, where that Cybertruck blew up outside of Donald Trump's hotel there. And by the way, Elon Musk said he deployed all of the top Tesla technicians onto that vehicle to ascertain what caused the explosion. Initially, they thought it could have been a spontaneous explosion. It wasn't that. In fact, it's now been pointed to fireworks and combustible fluids inside, specifically and deliberately parked there. And this car, interestingly, the same as the car that was driven into the crowds in New Orleans, was hired from a mobile phone app called Turo. And this allows individuals to rent private individuals' cars from each other. So 2 people in America had their cars rented out, and they were used in acts of what appears to be terrorism. It's an astonishing situation. And I'm now joined in the studio by Chris Hope. Chris, are we here to talk about smashing the gangs?
We are indeed, yeah. I mean attempts here by this government in the start of, by the way, Happy New Year, Martin, in 2025. Attempts here by the government to get to grips with smashing the gangs. We've got first bit of legislation coming from this government. They're going to give powers to law enforcement agencies, Martin, to ask High Court to replace restrictions on smuggling gangs before arrest, travel bans, asset freezes, phone usage restrictions, social media blackout. Get off Facebook if you're involved in trying to traffic individuals from France. I know you're going to.
I'm going to roll my eyes.
You are. I can see it. The Daubney eye roll. I'm used to it now.
No. Everybody at home will be saying, "Oh yeah, I know how he stops the most evil criminals on the earth. We block their Facebook profiles. We take their phones off them." Chris, that would hardly have them quaking in their boots. They'll get a new mobile phone. They'll get around this. It's performative nonsense. How will this stop the most vile trade on the platform?
We don't know yet. It will be. These measures are attached to the border security bill, which is going to come into be unveiled by the government in a few weeks' time. Other suspects could have the same restrictions put on them: drug traffickers, alleged terrorists, money launderers, firearms offences, that kind of thing. Again, we'll see if it works. We've heard from Tony Smith on the channel a couple of days ago. What is lacking, some experts say, is a deterrent. Forget trying to deal with the symptoms. A deterrent like the Rwanda plan. The government says that was a gimmick and wasn't going to work. Yvette Cooper says today that dangerous criminal people are profiting from undermining our border security and putting lives at risk. They can also use evidence from French law enforcement. This is the first meat on the bones of smashing the gangs, Martin. Not everyone's happy. David Davis, civil liberties people think that there was a process to go through this, and you shouldn't be doing this before a trial.
Is there enough meat on that bone for GBNews viewers? That remains to be seen. Come back to you later in the show. Got to go back now to America, and I'm joined by the US political commentator and the former Republican John Laboutier. Welcome to the show, John. So, an astonishing situation. It now appears that the two attacks, one in New Orleans and one in Las Vegas, not only connected, but also by the military regiment. Tell us more.
Well, I think yesterday when this first was reported, and then there was the attack in Las Vegas after the one in New Orleans, you started wondering, two attacks, first thing on January 1st, could they be related? And since then, everything we've learned, the two vehicles were rented through the same Turo website. That's interesting. We didn't know till right now who the guy in the Tesla truck was. And he died in the truck when it blew up outside the Trump Hotel. Just a Tesla truck, Elon Musk, at the Trump Hotel. That's no accident. That's a signal of some sort against Musk and Trump. The one in New Orleans, I don't know what that signals. And there are rumors down there from the Attorney General of Louisiana that they had a house nearby in New Orleans. I saw her say this on TV. She said there were 3 people in there building improvised explosive devices, and the house caught fire. Now, they're running away from that today, but I saw her say that on national TV yesterday, so I don't rule out that New Orleans is more than just the one guy in the truck, that there may have been other people involved, which is why they delayed the football game from yesterday to today. It's in New Orleans to make sure it's safe there. So I think we're learning by the minute that this might be a bigger thing than we first thought.
You're absolutely right. Thank you very much for joining us. We have to leave it there. Thank you. That's John Laboutier, political commentator and a former Republican. Thank you for joining us. Now, quickly back to the studio. Chris Hope's been sat here. I believe you've got us some breaking news in politics. Yeah, there's 2 things happening right now here. We've got letters going into the Home Secretary from Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, Alicia Cairns, the safeguarding Shadow Minister. They are saying, why on earth can't there be a formal inquiry into the Oldham grooming scandals you've been talking about on air already? So the pressure's mounting on Yvette Cooper already and Jess Phillips. The other big news just breaking just now is 20 councillors have quit Labour in protest over the direction of this party in government under Sir Keir Starmer in Broxtowe Borough Council in Nottinghamshire. You're back into your woods. Broxtowe, that's next to Ashfield, of course. 20 councillors abandoned the Labour Party. Chris, we'll pick that story up in the next hour. Thank you very much. We've got to get to the news now. And here it is, your headlines with Sam Francis. What a mate.
Very good afternoon to you. It's just after 3:30. The top story this hour. Well, US authorities say they believe multiple people were involved in a truck attack that killed 15 people and injured dozens of others on New Year's Day, in New Orleans. The driver, Shamsud Din Jabbar, was killed in a shootout with police, and an IS flag was found in his vehicle. There's been no claim, though, of responsibility, but Islamic State supporters are now widely celebrating online. Victims include a former Princeton football star and an aspiring nurse, as their identities are still being confirmed. Well, last night, President Biden addressed the press conference.
The FBI has reported to me the killer was an American citizen, born in Texas. He served in the United States Army on active duty for many years. He also served in the Army Reserve until a few years ago. The FBI also reported to me that mere hours before the attack, he posted videos on social media indicating, that is inspired by ISIS, expressing a desire to kill, The ISIS flag was found in his vehicle, which he rented to conduct this attack.
A murder inquiry is underway after a man injured in a Christmas Day car attack in London's West End has now died. Aidan Chapman passed away on New Year's Eve after a car drove on the wrong side of Shaftesbury Avenue, hitting 4 pedestrians. The 25-year-old's parents say they are devastated and described him as a loving, kind and funny soul. Well, a 30-year-old man has been charged with attempted murder, causing serious injury while disqualified, and possession of a knife. Police are now urging witnesses or anyone with footage of the incident to come forward. Suspected people smugglers could soon face travel bans, phone restrictions and social media blackouts under new government proposals. Ministers are introducing interim serious crime prevention orders to impose immediate restrictions, while courts review full orders. The move follows a sharp rise in small boat crossings last year, with over 7,000 more migrants arriving than in 2023. Labour says the powers will tackle what they've described as the vile gang networks, but Conservative ministers say it will make no difference at all. And the UK is bracing for a blast of very cold Arctic air, with amber cold weather health alerts across England and snow forecast for much of the country this weekend. Met Office warnings for snow and ice span England, Wales and Scotland, with Saturday expected to be the coldest of all of those days, with temperatures plunging to below freezing. Severe snowfall could also bring up to 40 centimetres of snow in higher areas, causing potential travel chaos and possible power cuts. We're also expecting overnight frosts, with freezing rain and icy conditions adding to the disruption. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you for a full roundup at the top of the hour. Next, though, we'll take a look at the markets.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Crash Law 24 sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
And here's how the markets are shaping up for you this afternoon. The pound will buy you $1.2387 and €1.2024 euros. The price of gold, £2,139.41 per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 8,252 points.
Crash Law 24 sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Hello, time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Overnight it's going to be cold again, a hard frost for many. Ice is a big risk across parts of Northern Ireland, Western Scotland and northwest England, and snow showers will continue to come in on a northerly wind across northern Scotland, particularly as this weather front moves in, bringing some heavy snow for a time over Shetland and Orkney, and increasingly we'll see that wet weather working into the mainland through the night. So we could see a few centimetres of snow building up over that northeastern corner of Scotland. Further west, it does turn a little milder. And so most of the showers here, certainly over low levels, will be of rain. But that could turn things very slippery across northwest England, Northern Ireland and western Scotland as those showers come in and temperatures tumble. In the south, it stays dry, but it's going to be a cold one here. It could get as low as -6 or 7 in the countryside. So into Friday morning, still some snow showers coming in across the northeast, a mixture of rain and hail for a time at low levels, but chiefly they will be of snow. The showers further west are going to be more of a mixture with some rain here, but potential for those icy conditions on the roads with temperatures hovering around freezing for the morning commute across northwest England, parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland. Further south it will be cold, it will be frosty, but it should by and large be sunny for a good chunk of the day. A few of the showers will filter south during the day into parts of North Wales. The showers, though, particularly in western areas, will mostly be of rain, a bit of hill snow possible. Further snow flurries, though, likely in the far northeast. Much of the south stays dry and sunny. Everywhere it stays pretty chilly for the time of year, with temperatures a few degrees below average after starting off well below zero. Low pressure then sweeps in for the weekend. This is going to be a real mishmash, bringing a spell of snow across the south, but it shouldn't last too long. But as it hits the colder air over the Midlands, Wales, Northern England, southern Scotland, that snow could really build up. There'll be some freezing rain as well. So warnings are in place for this weekend. Check the Met Office website for full details.
The latest GB News travel.
Good afternoon, I'm John Vincent. In Cumbria, the A591 is impassable in both directions due to ice between Bassenthwaite and Keswick. Queues on the M6 southbound in Staffordshire. There's a lane closed for an accident between junction 15 Stoke-on-Trent and the Stafford services. We're also seeing queues on the M6 southbound in Warwickshire. There's 2 lanes closed there for an accident between junction 3 Nuneaton and 2 the M69 for Coventry. Queuing traffic on the M4 eastbound in Berkshire. There's 2 lanes closed for a broken down vehicle between junction 10 Wokingham and 8 for Maidenhead. The A1M northbound in Hertfordshire has been closed for an accident between junction 9 Letchworth and 10 for Baldock, and it's slow on the M25 into the roadworks anti-clockwise at junction 10 the Wisley interchange. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Welcome back. It's 20 to 4 with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News. Now, just before the news, we had some breaking news, some political hot potato news coming through. Chris Hope, 2 stories you got there. The first one is the government's reaction to the Charlie Peters exclusive on the Oldham grooming gang investigation being suspended.
That's right. So the political pressure is growing right now on Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, and Jess Phillips, the safeguarding minister. Just very briefly, as Charlie Peters has reported all day, we're seeing here how the government is refusing to order a statutory inquiry, as is asked for, into the child grooming scandal by Oldham Council. A letter's now gone in from Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, and Alicia Cairns. I have it here, Martin. They're saying that only a statutory public inquiry can adequately encompass the national nature of these crimes and issues and consider the police, CPS, local council handling of these crimes. It's signed by Chris Philp, who's the Shadow Home Secretary, and Alicia Cairns, who's the Shadow Safeguarding Minister. Earlier, Alicia Cairns was on GB News with this to say.
These are people who have said, and Oldham Council themselves have put their hands up and said, we can't do this ourselves if we are to give victims and survivors the justice they want, and if we are to protect girls still in our communities. And if a local authority is saying that, it is for the government to listen and to say, right, we will step in, we will help you. And that's why I've written to Jess Phillips today asking her to reconsider her decision, but also to launch this full national review of grooming.
Well, Chris, my simple response to that would be, it's great, it's easy being in opposition. The Conservatives were in power for 14 years. In fact, Nigel Farage has replied and said precisely that. You had 14 years to launch a full national inquiry. You didn't do it, and now they're just throwing muck at the Labour Party in opposition. That
is a case you can make. Now, this government the last government, the Tory government, did do a task force into grooming, but not a formal inquiry. And I think this pressure will grow and grow on this government. Kemi Badenoch, she's a Tory leader. She's been tweeting earlier about why this government should try and order this inquiry. We're seeking lines and words from the Home Office to understand why they're not doing this, why they're not treating it with the seriousness which I think many think it should be.
Yeah, and the second one you had there, Broxtowe. In fact, that's where my auntie and uncle live. It's next door to Ashfield. It's in the Red Wall. It's an area that the Reform Party might fancy having a little nibble at, potentially, in the upcoming elections in May. There's been a huge defection. Tell us more.
Well, it's huge. 20 Labour councillors on Broxtowe Borough Council have quit. They're forming a new independent party, not going to Nigel Farage's party, Reform UK, but a significant blow here. They say that the Labour Party in government has abandoned traditional Labour values. They cite areas like the winter fuel allowance. We're facing a weekend when snow is going to fall on the forecast over Broxtowe and across England at the same time as this government has removed this £400 a year for winter fuel allowance, and that's going to be a real pressure, I think, on this government over this weekend. The 2-child benefit cap, why isn't that being removed? That's a big issue, I think, for many on the left of politics. Policies over Gaza and the WASPy women. So, in a sense, not the New Year welcome Sir Keir Starmer wanted to see.
I wonder if this is a lot of them jumping before they're pushed. I know Broxtowe. I know there's a huge discontent with the Labour Party, and particularly, as you mentioned, around the winter fuel allowance. I think a lot of these councillors know they're going to get a pasting in May. and they've gone suddenly away from the Labour Party. They've gone to an independent body. Effectively, they're now saying, we're not the Labour Party. Is this self-preservation? It could be a canny move.
And the letter I've got in front of me here, which is posted now on social media from these independents, they do mention the May 2025 local elections twice, Martin. They say they are standing their own candidates, they say, this group, and will campaign for every vote in every street, in every town. And we are expecting to have the leader of Broxtowe Council on your programme the next hour, so developing through the day.
Great stuff. And I think, actually, we might see a lot more of this. This is Labour councillors know they're walking down the gangplank and they're going to jump off the Labour brand because maybe it's become so toxic they don't want to be associated with it. Great story. Thank you very much, Chris Hope. Superb breaking news. Thanks for joining us back in the studio. Now, if you didn't get everything in your Christmas list this year in 2024, don't worry, because how about 50 grand in tax-free moolah this year? It really could all be yours in our biggest ever Great British Giveaway. Here's the details that you need to try and trouser it.
You could be joining the Great British Giveaway list of winners with your chance to grab a fantastic £50,000 in tax-free cash.
My name is Cliff. And my name is Julie. And we won 25,000. I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck with that. And freezing weather, snow and floods are set to blast Britain. Once again, gas prices are set to soar. Millions of British pensioners will be hit with the perfect storm. That's next with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News, Britain's News Channel.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, here's your latest winter sun forecast for GB News. Over the next few days, things will be turning more unsettled across southern parts of Europe. We'll see a few showers across the Canary Islands and Madeira on Friday, some sunshine too. Sunshine for southern parts of Spain, rain further north, and as we head into central and southeastern parts of Europe, much more in the way of unsettled weather here. Plenty of rain around, some snow on the hills, and temperatures will be struggling in places too. As for the next few days into the weekend and the start of next week, we hold on to that mixed theme, plenty of sunshine but further showers at times as well.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Patrick Christie's. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Apparently, in the Mail, page 5, hard-pressed bosses already having to deal with deadlines, red tape and staff who won't actually come into the office over Christmas. And they're saying that Christmas parties this year are going to be as lame as ever because everyone's afraid of basically getting cancelled or misbehaving or getting sacked for their behaviour. Would you risk it, Trey, at Christmas?
Do you know, I've actually never had a normal job in my life, so I wouldn't last a second because I'm not very politically correct. But it must be horrendous, really, because rather than enjoying yourself, you're having to completely always censor yourself. And it might be the most innocent of stuff that's said to someone that they then take offence to, which means you're going to probably just keep your mouth shut, which doesn't sound like the best of parties, does it, really?
No. Tricky one, isn't it? Because you're not at work, so it's not an office issue if, you know, some banter and it's taken the wrong way. But still, it's still a work environment, isn't it?
Yeah. If HR shows up, it's a work party. It's a work event.
HR shows up, I'm gone.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. And so even for us this year, first of all, it's the first year we're calling it a holiday party. I don't know how I felt about that.
Really? What, your company's doing that?
Yeah, they're calling it a holiday party.
Oh, no, well, no.
Yeah, I know. I voted against.
So they got rid of the word
Christmas.
Why?
Because we want to be inclusive.
How's it not inclusive to call it Christmas?
I know. Trust me.
Are you still going to go? I wouldn't bother going. I'd say no.
I am going to go, but I'm going to go dressed as Mrs. Claus, and it's going to be Christmassy, and I'm going to make sure that Christmas enters the door with me.
Yeah, you spread that Christian vibe.
100%. But outside of that, there is that element of HR showing up, and HR will be sober, and they've already prepped them to say, like, listen, this isn't your party. HR can have their party. This is your hangout.
Yeah.
Make sure everyone's being PC.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is the nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 4 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, the Met Office has warned that up to 1 foot of snow could fall between Saturday and Monday, with almost all of England and Wales included in that warning. Temperatures are expected to plunge to -10, potentially causing hazardous travel conditions. And millions of British pensioners who, of course, lost their winter fuel allowance will be hit with the perfect storm. Now, joining us now is the founder of thepensionervote.com, my great friend David Pinless. Welcome to the show. Pleasure to have your company. Every time I get onto you, David, we talk about the worry, the great worry that pensioners face. The beast from the east is coming in, and another story today, Russia is refusing to pipe gas through the Ukraine, which is invariably going to lead to a rise in gas prices. That's a double whammy. Pensioners must be really bracing themselves for. David, what have they been telling you?
Well, Martin, thank you very much for having me. We've received some comments from our members, which I'm sure your viewers would like to listen to. Just to put this into context for a bit, pensioners were told prior to the election that they would be looked after. They were told prior to the election that heating bills would be reduced by about £300 per annum. And according to Labour's own research prior to the election, 4,000 pensioners would die if the winter fuel payment was cancelled, and it has been cancelled. So today we have an email from Tim in Kent. Tim says, I am now copying what my father told me he used to do in an Anderson shelter during the Second World War. I have 2 equally sized flower pots. I light a candle in one of them and upend the other over it. It takes the edge off the cold and costs very little because I cannot afford to have my electricity on full time. Oh, I'm in North Wales, Martin, and by the way, I wonder what Ed Miliband would have to say about that. I'm in North Wales. I'm shivering now. I've got a radiator on behind me. I dread to think what it would be like if I had 2 flower pots and a candle. Emily from Cheshire says, and this is on our message board today, and your viewers can see our message board if they go to the website. She says, I'm dreading the cold weather spell because my boiler is broken and I can't afford a new one. I have bought an electric fire from Amazon to sit next to, so things shouldn't be too bad, especially if I sit in the kitchen when I have the oven on as well. David from Bedfordshire. Again, on our message board, your viewers can see that on our message board, our PM is enjoying himself in sunny Madeira. No objection to anyone having a holiday, but when he returns, remember he'll be chatting to Liz Kendall. He says MP for the DWP. I mean, she's responsible for the Department of Work and Pensions, who we pay over £150,000 a year to, and we pay for the heating on her second home. Meanwhile, some poor pensioners are freezing. You get a sense of the anger there that pensioners feel towards Labour politicians. If I may read out one that I read out during the last Golf Snap, because I think it's one of the best ones. Evelyn from Lincolnshire says, I'm thinking of taking a Eurostar train to France and coming back on a dinghy, so the government may put me up in a warm hotel. Harry from Manchester, if I may go on. The government introduced assisted dying when they scrapped the winter fuel payment. If I am reincarnated, I hope I come back as a train driver. So you can see the British sense of humour hasn't been frozen to death yet.
David Penless, thank you very much. We have to leave it there. It's always so heartbreaking to hear those stories, but thank you very much for joining us. And I hope to speak to you again soon. Everybody out there, please stay safe and stay warm, and the same to you. The Labour Party has caused an international backlash after GB News revealed it will block a full inquiry into the Oldham grooming scandal. That's next with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News. But first, here's your weather.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Overnight, it's going to be cold again. A hard frost for many. Ice is a big risk across parts of Northern Ireland, Western Scotland and northwest England. And snow showers will continue to come in on a northerly wind across northern Scotland, particularly as this weather front moves in, bringing some heavy snow for a time over Shetland and Orkney. And increasingly, we'll see that wet weather working into the mainland through the night. So we could see a few centimetres of snow building up over that northeastern corner of Scotland. Further west, it does turn a little milder. And so most of the showers here, certainly over low levels, will be of rain. But that could turn things very slippery across northwest England, Northern Ireland and western Scotland as those showers come in and temperatures tumble. In the south, it stays dry, but it's going to be a cold one here. It could get as low as -6 or 7 in the countryside. So into Friday morning, still some snow showers coming in across the northeast, a mixture of rain and hail for a time at low levels, but chiefly they will be of snow. The showers further west are going to be more of a mixture with some rain here, but potential for those icy conditions on the roads with temperatures hovering around freezing for the morning commute across northwest England, parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland. Further south, it will be cold, it will be frosty, but it should by and large be sunny for a good chunk of the day. A few of the showers will filter south during the day into parts of North Wales. The showers, though, particularly in western areas, will mostly be of rain, a bit of hill snow possible. Further snow flurries, though, likely in the far northeast. Much of the south stays dry and sunny. Everywhere it stays pretty chilly for the time of year, with temperatures a few degrees below average after starting off well below zero. Low pressure then sweeps in for the weekend. This is going to be a real mishmash, bringing a spell of snow across the south, but it shouldn't last too long. But as it hits the colder air over the Midlands, Wales, Northern England, southern Scotland, that snow could really build up. There'll be some freezing rain as well. So warnings are in place for this weekend. Check the Met Office website for full details.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good afternoon, I'm John Vincent. Queues in Perth up towards the Broxton roundabout. Firstly, we've got the usual delays northbound for the M90. Traffic also struggling on the A9 southbound towards the Broxton roundabout. There's a lane closed for a broken down vehicle. On the M1 northbound in West Yorkshire, the exit slip road is partially blocked to the M62. That's due to an accident at junction 42 Lofthouse. The A1M northbound in County Durham is blocked due to an accident at junction 60 Bradbury. Traffic passing on the slip roads. Slow for the M6 southbound in Staffordshire. There's a lane closed for an accident between junction 15 Stoke-on-Trent and the Stafford services. And we're seeing slow traffic in Hampshire on the M275 southbound in Portsmouth at the Rudmore roundabout. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
There's still plenty of time to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize ever, an incredible £50,000. What would you spend £50,000 on in the coming year? Spectacular holidays, a brand new car, home improvements, or maybe you'd just like to save it for a special occasion? For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here We do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
A very, very good afternoon to you. It's 4 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News. We're broadcasting for you live all across the UK. On today's show, Labour's grooming shame. The Labour Party has caused an international backlash after GB News revealed it will block a full inquiry into the Oldham grooming gang scandal. I'll speak to an Oldham councillor who fought for the inquiry, a whistleblower and the campaign of the peerless Maggie Oliver, and shortly, a police and crime commissioner who's called the decision simply shameful. And after a terrorist killed 15 and hospitalised at least 35 others in New Orleans, the FBI are now investigating a link between a car bomb that exploded outside the Donald Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. We'll bring you all of the latest. And after police failed to arrest a serial Romanian thief, who's also, by the way, an illegal immigrant 7 times, a private policing company took matters into its own hand and they finally nicked him. And yet, astonishingly, the Home Office tried to block his prosecution. I'll speak to the boss of My Local Bobby. And it's cold out there, it's blooming cold. The Met Office has warned that up to a foot of snow could fall between Saturday and Monday, with almost all of England and Wales included in that warning. And that's all coming up in your next hour. The story you're about to hear in this hour is absolutely astonishing. Ionit Kencu, an illegal immigrant from Romania who was a plunderer, a light-fingered thief who stole thousands and thousands of pounds worth of eyewear from an upmarket opticians. The police did absolutely nothing. So in the end, they had to hire a private company, My Local Bobby. They did nick him. They restrained him and finally got justice. But the Home Office tried to stop it. It's an incredible story. I'll be joined by the boss of that company. They got stuff done where the government and the police simply failed. That's coming next. Get in touch usual ways, gbnews.com/your say. I'm particularly interested in your thoughts on the Labour Party postponing, saying no to a full national inquiry into the grooming scandal in Oldham. Is that absolutely shameful? Get in touch. But first, here's your headlines, and it's Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon to you. 2 minutes past 4. The top story this hour. 20 councillors in Nottinghamshire have quit the Labour Party, accusing Labour under Sir Keir Starmer's leadership of abandoning traditional values, they say. The group from Broxtowe Borough Council, after 42 years in Labour, now plans, they say, to form a new independent party and run minority administration there. They've criticised Labour's policies, including recently cutting winter fuel allowances and plans to scrap local councils in favour of so-called super councils. A local Labour spokesperson has called the move incredibly disappointing, while councillors said 100 grassroots members have also resigned. US authorities have, in the last few moments, reportedly said that they no longer believe that any multiple people were involved in a truck attack that killed 15 people and injured dozens on New Year's Day in New Orleans. The lone driver, Shamsuddin Jabbar, was killed in a shootout with police, and an IS flag was found in his vehicle. There's been no claim of responsibility for the attack, but Islamic State supporters are widely celebrating online. Victims include a former Princeton football star and an aspiring nurse, as their identities are still being confirmed. Well, President Biden addressed a press conference overnight. Take a listen.
The FBI has reported to me the killer was an American citizen, born in Texas. He served in the United States Army on active duty for many years. He also served in the Army Reserve until a few years ago. The FBI also reported to me that mere hours before the attack, he posted videos on social media indicating that he was inspired by ISIS, expressing a desire to kill, The ISIS flag was found in his vehicle, which he rented to conduct this attack.
Well, as I say, just to recap that breaking news from the United States, that media sources are reporting that the FBI and New Orleans police no longer believe that there are any other suspects involved in that New Year's truck attack other than the driver that was shot dead by police. We're also expecting to hear from officials on the scene a little bit later this hour. We'll keep across those details for you. Meanwhile, police are investigating any possible links to an explosion in Las Vegas just hours later. That's after a Tesla Cybertruck filled with fuel canisters and fireworks exploded outside the Trump Hotel there. Well, the driver was killed and 7 people were injured, but none of the individuals involved have been named so far. In response, incoming President Donald Trump posted on Truth Social, "Our country is a disaster," he said, "a laughingstock all over the world." And he went on to blame open borders for the incident and said under his leadership, the chaos will stop. Here, meanwhile, a murder inquiry is underway after a man injured in a Christmas Day car attack in London's West End has now died. Aidan Chapman passed away on New Year's Eve after a car drove on the wrong side of Shaftesbury Avenue, hitting 4 pedestrians. The 25-year-old's parents say they are utterly devastated and described him as loving, kind and funny. A 30-year-old man has been charged with attempted murder, causing serious injury while disqualified from driving, and possession of a knife. Police are now urging witnesses or anyone with footage to come forward. Suspected people smugglers could soon face travel bans, phone restrictions and social media blackouts under new government proposals. Ministers are introducing interim serious crime prevention orders to impose immediate restrictions while the courts review full orders. The move follows a sharp rise in small boat crossings in 2024, with over 7,000 more migrants arriving than the previous 12 months. Labour says the powers will tackle the so-called vile gang networks, but Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp told us it won't make any difference at all.
This is the same government, of course, the same Labour Party who voted against life sentences for those very same gangs when they were in opposition. And on their watch, since the election, now 6 months ago, illegal immigration across the Channel has gone up by 29% compared to last year. And I think it was a huge mistake of Labour to scrap the Rwanda deterrent before it even started. The first flight was due to take off on the 24th of July, and Labour cancelled it before that plane had a chance to leave. And I think if that had started, then we would see the numbers dramatically reducing.
And the UK is bracing for a blast of Arctic air with amber cold weather health alerts across England and snow forecast for much of the country this weekend. Met Office warnings for snow and ice span England, Wales and Scotland, with Saturday expected to be the coldest day of the week so far. Severe snowfall could bring up to 40 centimetres in higher areas, causing potential travel chaos and possible power cuts too. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you in half an hour. Now, though, it's over to Martin.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sam. Now, the Labour Party has come under massive fire after refusing to hold a public inquiry into historic sexual abuse by grooming gangs in Oldham. Elon Musk attacked the decision as disgraceful, while Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the opposition, said a full national inquiry into rape gangs was long overdue, although, to be fair, they did have 14 years to do it. And Jess Phillips, Labour's safeguarding minister, insisted it was for Oldham Council alone to decide whether to launch an investigation into alleged exploitation between 2011 and 2014. Well, earlier on the show, I spoke to GB News' national reporter Charlie Peters, who broke this story. Here he is.
delay is a continuous part of a symptom of just ignoring this crisis that we've seen time and time again. Now, Oldham Council made this request after many years of campaigning from survivors in the town and some politicians calling for a new independent inquiry because they were not satisfied with the one that was locally organised in 2022. Its terms of reference were too brief, 2011 to 2014. So many survivors in the town said and have told me that they don't believe it was sufficient. There's more to uncover, there's more to reveal. And in their letter to the Home Secretary and to the Home Office, requesting this review as voted on by the council, they say that, we don't think we can do this. We need the government to intervene. But in a letter that GB News has seen exclusively from Jess Phillips to the council executive, she says that she believes it's right for the council to organise their own inquiry. But that's the point, Martin. As I just said, they've done their own. It didn't complete a sufficient amount of recovery. It didn't look into the issue sufficiently, and it did not deliver that sense of justice, palpable justice that so many survivors feel as though they need. They always say justice delayed is justice denied.
Charlie Peters there, GB News' national reporter, breaking that story that's gone around the world and attracted the attention of the world's richest man, Elon Musk. Earlier on, I spoke with a councillor, Brian Hobin, who was one of the whistleblowers in Oldham. He called the Labour Party's decision disgraceful and now can speak with the Police and Crime Commissioner for Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, Donna Jones. Donna, welcome to the show. And first off, a very, very happy new year to you. Thanks for joining us on the show. A lot of people are just scratching their heads today and asking one basic question, Donna Jones. How on earth can the safeguarding minister, the minister's responsibility, their sole job to protect the most vulnerable in society, Jess Phillips, puts herself forward as a champion of those oppressed women and girls who suffer sexual violence, and yet today they feel like they've had a kick in the face. What's your take?
Well, Martin, I am really concerned about the government's approach towards safeguarding of some of the most vulnerable victims, the most depraved victims this country has seen. Let's not forget that 10 years ago, Britain woke up to the news that there were over 1,400 young girls, predominantly young white girls, who had been treated in the most horrific way. In fact, the only crimes that were worse than what they had suffered, you could argue, would have been death, murder. They had been kidnapped, they'd been drugged, they'd been raped, they'd been imprisoned. Some of them had been raped with broken bottles. They'd had petrol poured on them. And one very poor young girl in Rotherham, Laura Wilson, who was 17, was stabbed over 40 times by the assailant, who was convicted of her murder and her grooming. This situation across Britain of these child grooming gangs, we now spans not only Rotherham, but Oldham, Telford, and we've heard, and we've had now sentences given to Oxfordshire, to another Oxfordshire grooming gang. Now, the difference that's happened here with the Jess Phillips situation is that the Manchester Combined Authority has already carried out, so the local authorities in Manchester have already carried out their review. So if that had not happened, I could understand the Safeguarding Minister, Jess Phillips, saying, look, you need to have a look at this first and see what learning you can take. They've done that. They did that in 2022, and they are not content with the conclusions that came out of that. So finally, really from me, in answer to your question, my concern here is that there needs to be a public inquiry ordered by the new Labour government into what's happened, because in the Baroness Casey review from 2015, which, by the way, was instructed by the previous government, she was a civil servant at the time when she was asked to carry out a very comprehensive review into Rotherham, and subsequent reports have suggested that there could be links between these paedophile child grooming gangs that span across the Pennines from Rotherham, Telford, Oldham, and perhaps even down to Oxford, and in fact other cities and towns as well. And that's why it needs a national inquiry.
Can I ask you a question about politics? It's grotesque that politics comes into this, and yet it does. Can a local council be trusted to mark its own homework? For example, there may be councillors from the past who were a part of this problem. So can a council be truly ever independent to do so? And if it does go upstairs, as it were, to the governing power, might the Labour Party not want to shine the light on what happened there. Because don't forget, this is a Labour council. A lot of these crimes, not all of them, but the huge majority of these grooming gangs happened in Labour constituencies. Police and crime commissioners, police officers, politicians, the media, social services, so many of them turned a blind eye for fear of being called racist, and yet here we are. Might an inquiry be so damaging to the government? That's the reason they don't even get the thing off the ground.
Well, that is a very good point. And in fact, going back to Rotherham and that case of Laura Wilson, that tragic young girl who had been raped for many years and who was then murdered. Well, in fact, Rotherham Council, led by the Labour Party, tried to get a High Court injunction to prevent the details of her death being published and linking it to the child grooming gang. So the council themselves tried to act to prevent that news from coming out to us, the public, people that deserve to have that. And in fact, the deputy leader of Rotherham Council at the time was involved in one of the grooming gangs, and he has since been sent to prison. So he was also vice chair of the police and crime panel, the body that's there to hold the police to account in Rotherham. So you're absolutely right. These issues have been endemic in the past. Now, for me, going back to the point you made, yes, of course, you know, Keir Starmer's position in this one and his involvement when he was the director of public prosecutions in what was at the time, and I would argue still since, is one of the worst cases of child grooming gangs that has happened on such a scale. Over 1,400 victims in one town the world has seen. And that's how it was described in the mainstream media, in printed press across this country at the time. And I read that again in one of the mainly, I think at the Times, literally about 2 months ago, when there were more sentences given. So, yes, this is a bleak period for the Labour Party, because, as you say, a lot of those towns and cities where these issues have gone on have been Labour-controlled authorities.
Donna, can I ask you a question? Earlier on when we communicated, you mentioned something else which is just horrific to mention, but that's money. And is this a case of the financial side? These inquiries aren't cheap. Are they trying to dodge it potentially because it's too expensive? How much might one of these things cost?
Well, that's a very good point. If Jess Phillips, as a safeguarding minister, did agree that this was needed because it was of such national significance, and honestly, Martin, I can't believe anything that is more nationally significant than the protection of children, particularly those that are being targeted in this way. But if the Home Office, if she as a Home Office minister ordered this independent public inquiry, the Home Office would have to pick up the bill. Now, because of the scale of this and the size of it, you could easily be looking upwards of £1 million. So I don't want to be crude about this, but I think that money probably does feature in this. But also, of course, a public inquiry has more national significance. It gets more traction than a council doing their own independent review. And I do suspect that it could be both of those things, could be playing into the decisions. I hope not, but, you know, being a sceptic as I sometimes am in my job, those are some of the conclusions that I'm currently pondering.
But £1 million, is that what you said? £1 million is the cost of an inquiry. That's chicken feed. That's absolute chicken feed in the grand scheme of things. You're giving £10 billion to train drivers. You know, if you're giving £22 billion to international climate change, £16 billion to foreign aid. £1 million is an absolute rounding error. Surely they can't be palming it off because of such paltry sums of money. That would be utterly grotesque.
Well, the key thing here as well really should be about the victims, isn't it? It should be about ensuring the victims get the justification and get the outcomes that they deserve. We also need to make sure that we're learning from those mistakes, those cultural issues that happened across the CPS, across policing, across councils, social workers, children's services departments, care agencies, to make sure that this can never, ever happen again in Great Britain. So for me, I hope money is not the reason, but it was right of me to point out to you earlier, they can be very expensive and take several years, public inquiries, but that shouldn't stop it from happening. Now, as I say, those victims, when Suella Braverman, the previous Home Secretary, went to Rotherham to meet with some of those victims after the Baroness Casey publication, when she was Home Secretary, she ordered an inquiry herself into the suffering. And some of those victims said to her, not only was there suffering from the physical and sexual abuse, kidnap, rape, drugging that they had, and significant beatings, it was also the fact they weren't believed, and then that they didn't get the justice they deserved. So that actually caused them more pain and suffering. And that is my concern now for these, they are now young women, but they were children at the time when this has happened in Oldham and Telford and Rotherham and Oxford, and how many more places are going to come out. This is a significant problem. I don't think these will be the last towns and cities that I've just listed. I think there's more to come, and that's why there must be a national public inquiry into child grooming gangs in the United Kingdom.
Donna Jones, I think you're exactly right. And in fact, I hear all the time, this is still going on. The idea that this is an historic problem that no longer exists, I think that is fantasy land. And I think you're absolutely right. We need to have a full probe on this. Thank you very much. Donna Jones, Police and Crime Commissioner there for Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. Thank you very much. Now, a Home Office spokesman has said no child should ever suffer sexual abuse or exploitation. Everyone who is responsible for children's welfare must learn from past mistakes and do everything possible to prevent future failures. OK, now I'm joined in the studio by Chris Hope. Chris, we're going to have to get some political reaction to this because since GB News broke the exclusive, of course, there has been a significant round of political fallout. Tell us more.
That's right. So the first letters flying around now early in the new year. We've got a letter here from Chris Philp and Lisa Cairns. Chris Philp is the Shadow Home Secretary. Lisa Cairns is the Shadow Minister for Safeguarding. They are saying to Yvette Cooper and Jess Phillips, the Safeguarding Minister, there must be a public inquiry. That a public inquiry would have the power to summons witnesses and obtain written evidence. Only a statutory inquiry, they say, can adequately encompass the national nature of these crimes and issues and consider the police, CPS and local council handling of these crimes and whether the reports were ignored or covered up, to which many would say, well, that's great, a good idea from the Tories. However, what's also emerged in the past...
And they had 14 years to do it while in power.
Exactly.
Before it's not thrown too many mud pies, they could have done this themselves.
Well, that's your point. And made, in fact, by this other letter I've got hold of here, which is a letter from Amanda Soloway, who at the time, in September 2022, she was the Safeguarding Minister for the Tory government. In there, she recognises that there's a request here from Councillor Howard Sykes in Oldham for a public inquiry, and they say here that, in fact, they can't do one because they think that they want to ensure that it never happens again. They say here that the government is clear that it's for local authorities in towns and cities who are responsible for delivering local services to commission local inquiries. So you have the Tories correctly making a lot of noise behind Charlie Peters' reporting of this scandal. But you know, fair enough. This happened, by the way, when the Tories were in power, and they refused to do an inquiry then. But this is politics. But the victims, Martin, are being forgotten at the expense of political rowing.
More than that, I think they're getting utterly sick to the back teeth of the political football being passed around.
Which it is. It's literally a football between two parties. No one is helping the victims.
It's utterly reprehensible that they're saying, well, you should have done it in power, but it's the local councils. The point the local council whistleblower made to me, Brian Hobbin, I spoke to him earlier, is that there are people on local councils that may have been complicit, may have known what was going on, may have turned a blind eye, may have failed to tip off the police, may have failed to tip off the social services, may have failed to turn off central government. For whatever reasons, that's what the inquiry will be about. How can we trust local politicians to mark their own homework? We can't.
And that's why the Tories now say, not in government, that it needs to be a national inquiry to get hold of that national scope. But the same Tory party, when in power, refused to do one.
Well, this one's going to run and run and run. And, of course, Charlie Peters there, certainly the cats amongst pigeons. Thank you very much, Chris Hope. Now, the Safeguarding Minister, Jess Phillips, responded to the Council's request, acknowledging the strength of feeling that a further inquiry into child sexual exploitation in Oldham should be undertaken. In letters to the Council Executive, Ms Phillips apologised for delays in responding, but maintained that local authorities should take the lead, saying it is for Oldham Council alone to decide to commission an inquiry into child sexual exploitation locally, rather than for the government to intervene. She welcomed the Council's resolution to continue its work with victims and survivors. And GB News also understands that Oldham Council has since made contact with Telford, which faced similar issues historically, of course, to explore further various inquiry options down the line. Now, coming next, after a terrorist killed 15 and hospitalised at least 35 others in New Orleans by driving a car into New Year's revellers, we'll have a police press conference with more information next. With me, Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Love a bit of baking and share some hot tips. We're delighted to be joined by our baking extraordinaire, Matty Edgell, who won Great British Bake Off last year. Woo! Welcome. Congratulations as well. I'm sure you're sick of being congratulated.
I know, it's a nice reminder.
No, you like all the glory.
Yeah.
What was it like winning the Great British Bake Off? What's last year been like for you?
Winning I was not expecting to win. At any point until they said my name.
You're a very humble
nice
guy.
Surprise. No, I was just
really
in touch with reality. Yeah, no, I wasn't.
Was it quite a close race throughout then?
Yeah, I considered myself the underdog throughout. I think the first week I turned around after the showstopper and kind of saw how good everyone was, and then looked at mine and thought, how have I got here? And that kind of theme followed through.
But then that surely like an underdog.
Yeah, it did.
Actually, I'm going to get better throughout this.
Yeah, I think it made me kind of like really tune into the feedback that they was giving me and trying to embed that throughout. So that's probably why.
Could you feel yourself improving as the series went on?
Definitely, and I think also like kind of simultaneously my confidence improved at the same time, and then that like little bit of belief in myself probably helped out as well.
What was your strength? Biscuits, cake, bread?
I think cake's my strength. I think cake, typically if you start baking, that's probably where you start, isn't it? So that was what I knew most.
How did you start baking?
I've been asked this so many times since...
You don't know.
I attribute it to my nan.
Sweet.
But yeah, I would say, I think most people probably attribute it to like a grandparent or something that they maybe done with like their parents when they was growing up. So that's I'll give it to my nan.
Or the major lockdown baking boom.
Yeah, banana bread.
Everybody
all over the place, don't it? It's good.
Yeah, it's really good. I love a banana bread, even now.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. 4:26 with me, Martin Daubney on GB News. Now we cross live now to New Orleans, where a press conference is taking place about that terrorist attack yesterday.
Add to the resources that we have: Wildlife and Fisheries, the Department of Corrections, DSF, DHS, our Veterans Affairs, our Probation and Parole, all state agencies. Any state agency who has a post-certified offices are here in this city to help secure the city. And so with that, I would like to turn it over to Christopher Rea, who is the Deputy Assistant Director of the FBI's Counter Terrorism Division. Chris?
Thank you, Governor Landry. Good morning. I am FBI Deputy Assistant Director Christopher Rea. I'm from our Counterterrorism Division at headquarters. I'm also joined by Assistant Special Agent in Charge Alethea Duncan from our New Orleans office, who you heard from yesterday. I'm here to discuss not only the latest investigative information we have here in New Orleans, but I'll also let you know about other investigative activities outside of the state. I first, and most importantly, want to send our deepest condolences to the victims of this horrific attack and their loved ones. 14 innocent victims were killed in this senseless attack, and at least 35 are injured. Din Jabbar, the subject you've already been briefed on. A little bit about what the FBI is doing. So we are surging people and assets to the area from across the region and across the nation. Special agents in multiple field offices across the country have been deployed and are assisting with potential aspects of this investigation and following up on every lead. Additional teams of special agents, professional staff, and victim specialists continue to arrive to provide more investigative power and assistance to the victims and their families. We've also forward deployed a number of our critical incident response group assets, including members of our hostage rescue team, special agent bomb technicians, and crisis management coordinators. In addition, we have deployed more evidence response technicians to continue to process the various scenes that we have. So far, we have received just over 400 tips from the public, and that information is being followed up on both here in New Orleans and across the country. Some of the tips are here in New Orleans, and there are other tips in other states across the country that we are following up on. The FBI team and our law enforcement partners here are also reviewing hundreds of hours of surveillance and other video from both the French Quarter and other locations. As for a timeline, at this point, investigators believe Jabbar picked up the rented F-150 in Houston, Texas on December 30th. He then drove from Houston to New Orleans on the evening of the 31st, and he posted several videos to an online platform proclaiming his support for ISIS. There were 5 videos posted on Jabbar's Facebook account, which are time-stamped beginning at 1:29 a.m. and the last at 3:02 a.m. In the first video, Jabbar explains he originally planned to harm his family and friends, but was concerned the news headlines would not focus on the, quote, war between the believers and the disbelievers, end quote. Additionally, he stated he had joined ISIS before this summer. He also provided a will and testament. FBI and ATF. FBI. We have a couple different scenes at the location. We have released the scene at Bourbon Street. That scene has been released. We also have a scene off of Mandeville address, where we're currently searching that scene right now. FBI and ATF agents have secured that house, and that location is being searched for potential evidence. On New Year's morning, Jabbar opened fire after ramming through a blocked-off area of Bourbon Street, used his truck as a weapon to run over the victims. Teams of specially trained victim specialists, again, as I said, are on the ground here in New Orleans, assisting survivors of the attack and loved ones of the deceased. We do not believe the public is in any danger around any of these locations. 3 phones linked to Jabbar have been recovered, and digital media exploitation is a priority to see what is on the devices and determine if there are any other potential leads. Additionally, we have recovered 2 laptops and are currently reviewing them for any potential leads. Those laptops were recovered at the Mandeville address. Evidence technicians will also be going over the F-150 truck Jabbar was driving. As you know, we recovered an ISIS flag from the back of the vehicle. Jabbar declared his support for the terrorist group on social media, as I stated before, as he made his way to New Orleans. FBI bomb technicians also recovered 2 IEDs in coolers, one from the cross-section of Bourbon and Orleans Street, and the second at an intersection approximately 2 blocks away. There were multiple reports of other devices. Those reports turned out to be misinformation or not actual functioning devices. Those are the only 2 devices that we've been able to recover that were functional. Both devices were rendered safe on scene. We did obtain surveillance footage showing Jabbar placing the devices where they were found. Two other, as I said before, 2 other items of interest were determined not to be IEDs. A little bit about Jabbar. Jabbar himself was born in the United States and is a U.S. military veteran. We are looking in everything in his life. While we have interviewed many people who know Jabbar, we still need to talk to others. Whether you know Jabbar personally, worked with him, served in the military, or saw him in New Orleans or Texas, we need to talk to you. You may not think you have relevant information, but what you know could tie in to one of our investigative leads. Specifically, we want to talk to anyone who was in the French Quarter on New Year's Eve or early on New Year's Day. That includes people spotted near one of the 2 IEDs on Bourbon Street. The IED was inside a cooler, and many people stopped and looked at the cooler and then continued on their way. Let's be clear, again, we do not believe at this point these people are involved in this incident in any way. We want to speak to them as witnesses and want to know what they saw and when. I went down to the crime scene last night. It is very hard to put into words what it looked like and how difficult it was to see. Anyone with information can call us at 1-800-CALL-FBI or send digital tips to fbi.gov/Bourbon Street attack. Early this morning, evidence response teams finished their work at the crime scene. Bourbon Street has been turned over to the city of New Orleans. As you know, there's also an FBI investigation in Las Vegas. We are following up on all potential leads and not ruling everything out. However, at this point, there is no definitive link between the attack here in New Orleans and the one in Las Vegas. And again, I'll preface, as I close, I'll preface everything with what I started with in the beginning, which was this is very early in an investigation like this. Again, our thoughts and prayers are with the victims of this tragedy and everyone impacted across the country. They remain at the heart of our investigation. I also, although I've only been on the ground here a short time, I also want to express a sincere appreciation for our partners here, which include the U.S. Attorney's Office, HSI, ATF, the New Orleans PD, the Louisiana State Police, the Governor's Office, and countless others. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to the Special Agent in charge of ATF here, Josh Jackson.
Hey, good afternoon. As stated, my name is Joshua Jackson. I am the Special Agent in charge for the ATF New Orleans Field Division. And ATF's primary mission is preventing, reducing, and solving violent crime throughout the United States and abroad. Solving part is the focus of this investigation. ATF resources that have been brought to bear to the city and to focus with our federal, state, and local partners have been our national response team. We spoke about the scene that's still being processed now. The National Response Team of ATF is a team of certified fire investigators, certified explosive specialists, fire engineers, electrical engineers. These folks will give us additional investigative leads to help the investigative team identify what happened at the location in Mandeville and identify how that fire started and move the investigation forward from there. Additional resources that ATF has brought to bear into the city as our ATF Special Response Team. This is a tactical team capable of handling any sort of enforcement operation. This team is deployed, on set, and ready for the Sugar Bowl today. This team is also made available to the Louisiana State Police and also New Orleans Police Department to assist with any efforts that they may have during this period. Additional resources, as the governor alluded to, he executed executive powers and had an emergency declared to where we were able to...
That was a very, very revealing police conference there. The FBI speaking in New Orleans, of course, in the aftermath of that terror attack. That was Special Agent Joshua Jackson, the federal agent, speaking. But earlier on at the start, very, very revealing information came out from a guy called Chris Rea. He's from the FBI Counter-Terror Department. He's the deputy lead. And he said, "Let me be clear. This was an act of terrorism. It was premeditated and it was evil. And we do not assess that anybody else was involved." So putting the message out that the individual, the perpetrator, was operating alone. They went on to say there have been 400 tips from the public in New Orleans and across other states. They're assessing hundreds of hours of video surveillance. And then some incredible detail about the hire car that was picked up out of state in Houston, Texas on December the 30th, then driven into New Orleans on New Year's Eve. And this is the crucial piece of information. 2 social media videos were made by the terrorists. Now, they're saying this is a terrorist attack. 2 pieces of social media were made by Shamsuddin Jabbar, both saying, one at 1:29 a.m. and one at 3:02 a.m., saying he openly supported ISIS. And he went on to say he initially wanted to harm his family, but that wouldn't make enough impact. It wouldn't make the point, and this is the quote, that this is a war between believers and non-believers. He then went on to state how he joined ISIS before the summer, and then the detail emerged of how that vehicle was used to run down victims in New Orleans. That's the mayor of New Orleans on our screens right now. But fascinating information beyond any doubt now, being treated as an act of terrorism, and clear information, factual information, videos from the deceased, the terrorist now in question, Shamsuddin Jabbar, stating on 2 separate videos he supported ISIS, and this is a war between believers and non-believers. An astonishing press conference, and let's discuss that now further with my next guest. I'm joined by Dr. Cheryl Hudson, who's a lecturer in US political history at the University of Liverpool. Dr. Hudson, welcome to GB News. An incredible press conference there, very, very open. This was clearly a blatant act of terrorism from somebody who publicly stated they were a supporter of ISIS and had converted to the cause before the summer. An incredible amount of information. What's your reaction to it?
Well, this case is very tragic. It's an attack on New Year's Day as people were celebrating the New Year, ringing in the New Year in New Orleans, in a beautiful city. And New Orleans is not alien to tragedy. Like this tragedy isn't the first one. They're still in many ways reeling from the tragedy of Hurricane Katrina. There's been a lot of chaos, a lot of crime in the city for a long time. And this is the perpetrator came from outside New Orleans, and I actually just wonder about this tag of terrorism because it seems to have become a catch-all as violence, all of the reported violence has a more kind of political character. So violence is becoming politicized, and people searching for meaning, like this man is saying, like believers or non-believers. There's a fascinating talk by the FBI just now, like giving information which does kind of label it as terrorism. Now, terrorism is an act that is designed to further ideological goals.
Well, that's what this is. But Cheryl, sorry to interject, that's precisely what the FBI agent said. The FBI agent said, let me be clear, this was an act of terrorism. It was premeditated and it was evil. And clearly the guy admitted himself he'd been poisoned by Islamist ideology via ISIS. That's terrorism all day long.
Right. But terrorism, I mean, you do get a sense that when these events, this is a very new event, so we're just learning the details of what had happened yesterday, and it just happened yesterday. At the same time, it feels very familiar in much of the reporting from many of these kind of spectacle violent acts, which some claim to be terrorism, some are terrorism, some, I suspect with this one, this is a middle-aged man who was very much in debt, was going through a painful divorce. We just heard that he considered just killing his family at first. and maybe was just looking for more meaning in his life. And
He was wrapped in an ISIS flag. He admitted that he supported ISIS. He said this is the war between believers and non-believers. That's not a middle-aged lad, sad divorcee looking for meaning. He converted to Islamism and murdered 15 people.
No, I mean, we don't know. We're speculating, right?
No, we do know. The FBI just confirmed. The FBI just told us.
The FBI said yesterday this is not a terrorist attack, right? So
they just said now it is.
As we learn more, and I don't know. I'm speculating as well.
We don't need to speculate, Dr. Hudson. We don't need to speculate. The FBI just said this is an act of terrorism. Let me be clear. There's no speculation required.
No, but he's saying it's because of the flag. So we immediately knew about
the video. He admitted to being converted to Islamism.
I assume that was an Islam. Now, Islamic terrorism is one of the kind of labels of terrorism. It does feel to me a lot of the time that people wait to see who the perpetrator is of mass murder before they decide whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. You know.
You don't think so? Do you not think this is a terrorism incident? You're saying it's something else. It's a loser. It's a divorcee.
No. I'm just saying that the definition of terrorism is broadened, and it seems that there is a way that violence is talked about, violent crime is talked about, that is much more politicised. You know, so if you look at the things that have happened recently with the murder of the healthcare CEO, of the girl who did the school shooting recently, the Christmas market, who's an anti-Islamist attacker.
Well, we don't know that yet. Look. In this particular instance, Dr. Cherudson, the FBI just stated this is an act of terrorism, and they went on to give multiple evidence. Why on earth they would make that up, or they would speculate?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying they're making it up. I'm not saying it at all. And in fact, the fact that he had an ISIS flag on
pretty clear indicator
shows that he had an affiliation to that. I'm just saying that. You know, I think it's troubling that political violence seems to be on the rise, or at least is more accepted. It seems to be more accepted according to which side of the culture war that you sit.
This is not a culture war. The FBI have just said he's a terrorist.
I know. You're talking about
in an ISIS flag. He admitted. Look, we have to leave it there. We've simply run out of time. Thank you for joining us anyway, Dr. Cherudson. Thank you very much for joining us on the show. Incredible. Lots more still to come between now and 5 o'clock, including after police failed to arrest a serial Romanian thief. He was nicked by a private company who took matters into their own hands. That's next with me, Martin Daubney.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, here's your latest winter sun forecast for GB News. Over the next few days, things will be turning more unsettled across southern parts of Europe. We'll see a few showers across the Canary Islands and Madeira on Friday, some sunshine too. Sunshine for southern parts of Spain, rain further north, and as we head into central and southeastern parts of Europe, much more in the way of unsettled weather here. Plenty of rain around, some snow on the hills, and temperatures will be struggling in places too. As for the next few days into the weekend and the start of next week, we hold on to that mixed theme, plenty of sunshine but further showers at times as well.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
A Tesco store on a Scottish island has defied locals by ignoring pleas to stay closed on Sundays.
Tesco's has said that no member of staff in Stornoway would be forced to work on a Sunday and that it had received a significant amount of positive reaction to its plans.
Well, let's talk now to the Minister of the Reformed Presbyterian Church, Reverend Kenneth Stewart. Good morning to you, Reverend Stewart. You're trying to keep Sunday special, and if Tesco are going to open up, that means it won't be quite as special for you.
Well, yes, good morning, and thanks for having me on. Yes, Tesco, for some reason, they claim it's not economic advantage, but for some reason they've decided to go against hundreds of years of tradition on this island and the deeply held religious convictions of many, many people, including, of course, their own customers who are really grieved by this decision. We come obviously from the standpoint that a day of rest is effectively mandatory. It's a human right, along with the other 10 commandments which have undergirded our moral and legal fabric in society. It actually enshrines the human right to a day of rest. And of course, in the UK, that's been eroded for many, many years. Incidentally, it's still far more respected on the continent. But for us here, the Sabbath or the day of rest has been very, very important. It's not just what we do, it's who we are. And for some reason, Tesco have decided just to go against that.
And Reverend Stewart, we were actually talking about this earlier, how in European countries, I mean, even in France, which is a secular country, still very few shops will open on a Sunday.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 4:51 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, the Telegraph has revealed that the Home Office tried to halt the private prosecution of a prolific foreign shoplifter who police have failed to arrest for 7 separate store thefts. Yet the private security firm My Local Bobby mounted their own investigation and stepped in, and they nicked an illegal Romanian immigrant after police failed to turn up. But the Home Office asked lawyers to drop their prosecution because it said that the outstanding criminal proceedings were preventing officials from deporting him. It's an astonishing story, and I'm joined now by David McKelvey, who's the CEO of My Local Bobby, who stepped in where the police failed. David, an incredible tale. Tell us more.
Yes, Martin. Afternoon. Basically, we attended a store. Bobby's attended a store following the 7th shoplifting incident involving this individual. He'd stolen goods valued at over £8,000 in the past 6 weeks, up until December 14th in 2023. We caught him. Basically, the Bobbies called the police. The police hadn't attended after 3 hours, so we took the decision that a private prosecution should take place, and we prosecute him as a private prosecution.
OK, and at that point you stepped in. The business in question, which was an upmarket opticians, losing thousands of pounds worth of stock, nothing was being done. You stepped in, you got on the scene. This individual, Ayanut Kenku, you detained him, you restrained him until the old bill turned up. And then what happened next? They tried to stop the prosecution.
Yeah, well, the police didn't actually turn up. We mounted the prosecution as a private criminal prosecution, served the summons on him at his home address. And he failed to attend court. A warrant was issued. He got arrested. He attended court. He failed to appear again. In fact, he failed to appear on 6 occasions throughout the entire period. At one stage, he was put into an immigration centre, detention centre. He was then given bail again with a tag with an address. Again, he failed to appear and was arrested again. And so it went on until finally, just before Christmas, he was arrested yet again. We were asked by the Home Office to drop our case. The CPS had a lot of other cases for him as well. They did drop their cases. I couldn't see that was the right way forwards because he potentially could claim asylum again, or he could leave the country and he'd be back in next week to commit further offences. So we went ahead with our prosecutions, and he ended up getting 22 weeks in prison.
We're going to very quickly get a clip of you. This is the moment where you apprehended him. You've restrained him there. You're explaining to him. You can see he's a multiple career thief, an illegal immigrant from Romania, Ayanut Kenku. You managed to collar him. Best of British. Well done. We have to leave it there. Dave McKelvey, we ran out of time, but you're doing God's work. Thank you very, very much. Now, coming up, the Labour Party has caused an international backlash as the GB News revealed it would block a full inquiry into the Oldham grooming gang scandal. That's next.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Overnight it's going to be cold again, a hard frost for many. Ice is a big risk across parts of Northern Ireland, Western Scotland and northwest England, and snow showers will continue to come in on a northerly wind across northern Scotland, particularly as this weather front moves in, bringing some heavy snow for a time over Shetland and Orkney, and increasingly we'll see that wet weather working into the mainland through the night. So we could see a few centimetres of snow building up over that northeastern corner of Scotland. Further west, it does turn a little milder. And so most of the showers here, certainly over low levels, will be of rain. But that could turn things very slippery across northwest England, Northern Ireland and western Scotland as those showers come in and temperatures tumble. In the south, it stays dry, but it's going to be a cold one here. It could get as low as -6 or 7 in the countryside. So into Friday morning, still some snow showers coming in across the northeast, a mixture of rain and hail for a time at low levels, but chiefly they will be of snow. The showers further west are going to be more of a mixture with some rain here, but potential for those icy conditions on the roads with temperatures hovering around freezing for the morning commute across northwest England, parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland. Further south it will be cold, it will be frosty, but it should by and large be sunny for a good chunk of the day. A few of the showers will filter south during the day into parts of North Wales. The showers, though, particularly in western areas, will mostly be of rain, a bit of hill snow possible. Further snow flurries, though, likely in the far northeast. Much of the south stays dry and sunny. Everywhere it stays pretty chilly for the time of year, with temperatures a few degrees below average after starting off well below zero. Low pressure then sweeps in for the weekend. This is going to be a real mishmash, bringing a spell of snow across the south, but it shouldn't last too long. But as it hits the colder air over the Midlands, Wales, northern England, southern Scotland, that snow could really build up. There'll be some freezing rain as well. So warnings are in place for this weekend. Check the Met Office website for full details.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good afternoon, I'm John Vincent. Queues on the M6 southbound in Staffordshire following an earlier accident between junction 15 Stoke-on-Trent and the Stafford services. We're seeing the usual slow traffic in the West Midlands on the M5 northbound to join the M6 at junction 8. On the M5 southbound in Gloucestershire, the exit slip road is closed towards the Gloucester services as a result of an accident, and they're between junction 11A and junction 12. Also on the M5, this time northbound in Somerset, there's 2 lanes closed for a multi-vehicle accident just after junction 24 Bridgewater South. Slow for the M4 eastbound near London due to an earlier accident just before junction 3 Hayes, and further along the M4 eastbound there's a lane closed for a broken down vehicle between junction 12 Thiel and 11 for Reading. And that's the latest traffic and travel news.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
You could be joining the Great British Giveaway list of winners with your chance to grab a fantastic £50,000 in tax-free cash.
My name is Cliff. And my name is Julie. And we won $25,000. I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
A very, very good afternoon to you. It's 5 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News. We're broadcasting for you live from the heart of Westminster. Actually, it's Paddington today and all across the UK. On today's show, Labour's grooming shame. The Labour Party has caused international outrage after GB News exclusively revealed via our man Charlie Peters that it will block a full inquiry into the Oldham grooming gang scandal. I was speaking shortly to a former detective constable and Rochdale whistleblower, of course, the peerless Maggie Oliver. And after terrorists killed 15 and hospitalised 35 others in New Orleans, the FBI have now confirmed in this past half hour that it was a terrorist attack and that the individual was radicalised by the Islamic State. And they also say that there is currently no definitive link between the car bomb that exploded outside Trump's hotel in Las Vegas and the New Orleans attack. We'll bring you up to speed with all of the latest. And in their latest attempt to smash the gangs, the government has threatened to close the social media accounts of the people smugglers. I mean, seriously, will this kind of clampdown really strike terror into the heart of the world's most evil criminals? And I'm afraid if your New Year's resolution was to try and give up your obsession with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, then you might be out of luck, because after posting a cryptic Instagram message, Meghan is back. Did she ever go away? That's all coming up in your next hour. Well, the show, an absolute pleasure to have your company. Now, I want to return to a story I was covering just before we broke the end of the hour. And it's that story, an incredible story. The Daily Telegraph has revealed that the Home Office tried to halt the private prosecution of a prolific foreign shoplifter. Footage on your screen now. This is an individual called Ionut Kenku, a serial Romanian thief and also, for good measure, an illegal immigrant. Stolen thousands and thousands, almost 6 grand's worth of high-end eyewear from a shop. The police never turned up, never did a single thing, and so my local Bobby, a private police company, turned up and did the police's job for them. I was joined by the boss of the company. You can see him on your screen there, David McKelvey. A short while ago, they nicked him, and at this point, the Home Office incredibly stepped in and said, don't press ahead with your prosecution, because they wanted to deport him. And they said, no, we want to prosecute him, because if we don't, he might get back into the country and cause more trouble. But look, we have a Home Office spokesperson, a right of reply, and they said this: we make no apology for wanting to remove foreign national offenders at the earliest opportunity. We work with law enforcement to ensure that there is no barrier to deporting foreign criminals, as it is in the public interest for those people to be removed swiftly. But the point is, the police never turned up. They never once nicked the guy. It was down to my local Bobby to do their job. I'm afraid at that point, he should have been deported long time ago. Too sweet. I know we get in touch with your views, what you think about that. And also, I'll be speaking shortly to Maggie Oliver, the peerless campaigner on grooming gangs, the rape gangs. Latest is the scandal of the Labour Party prohibiting a full national inquiry into the situation in Oldham. But before all of that, it's time for your headlines. And here's Sam Francis.
Very good evening to you. Just gone 5 o'clock. The top story tonight. Well, a truck attack in New Orleans on New Year's Day has now been confirmed as an act of terrorism. Authorities say 15 people were killed, including the attacker, Shamsuddin Jabbar, who died in a shootout with police. An IS flag was found in his vehicle, and while no group has claimed responsibility so far, supporters of the Islamic State are celebrating widely online. The FBI says it's now reviewing hundreds of hours of surveillance footage and over 400 public tip-offs. The identities of the victims, including a former Princeton football star and an aspiring nurse, are still being confirmed. Well, meanwhile, a deadly explosion outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas is being investigated by the FBI, but they say there is at this stage no definitive link to the incident in New Orleans. Well, that blast that was caused by a Tesla Cybertruck filled with fuel canisters and fireworks killed the driver and injured 7 others, though their identities remain undisclosed at this stage. The FBI's director has confirmed the investigation is ongoing, saying it's still in its very early stages. In the wake of the attack, incoming President Donald Trump took to Truth Social, blaming the nation's open borders and vowing to stop the chaos under his leadership. 20 councillors in Nottinghamshire have quit the Labour Party, accusing the party under Sir Keir Starmer of abandoning traditional values. The group from Broxtowe Borough Council, after 42 years in Labour, now plans to form a new independent party and run a minority administration. They criticise Labour's policies, including cutting winter fuel allowances for some pensioners and plans to scrap local councils in favour of so-called super councils. A local Labour spokesperson has called the move incredibly disappointing, while councillors said 100 grassroots members have also resigned. Kemi Badenoch is calling for a national inquiry into the UK's rape gang scandal, saying justice for victims is long overdue. Her plea comes after Labour's safeguarding minister insisted it was for Oldham Council alone to decide whether to launch an investigation into exploitation between 2011 and 2014. Elon Musk has attacked the decision, claiming that Jess Phillips deserves prison, he said, and accused Keir Starmer of inaction as Director of Public Prosecutions before becoming Prime Minister. However, Labour says it is working to implement recommendations from the 2022 independent inquiry into child sexual abuse, pledging, they say, to strengthen the law to protect victims. A murder inquiry is underway after a man injured in a Christmas Day car attack in London's West End has died. Aidan Chapman passed away on New Year's Eve after a car drove on the wrong side of Shaftesbury Avenue, hitting 4 pedestrians. The 25-year-old's parents say they are devastated and described him as loving and kind and a funny soul. A 30-year-old man has been charged with attempted murder, causing serious injury while disqualified from driving and possession of a knife. Police are now urging witnesses to come forward. Suspected people smugglers could soon face travel bans, phone restrictions and social media blackouts under new government proposals. Ministers say they're introducing interim serious crime prevention orders to impose immediate restrictions while the courts review full orders. The move follows a sharp rise in small boat crossings last year, with over 7,000 more migrants arriving than in 2023. Labour says the powers will tackle vile gang networks, but the Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp told us it will make no difference at all.
This is the same government, of course, the same Labour Party, who voted against life sentences for those very same gangs when they were in opposition. And on their watch, since the election, now 6 months ago, illegal immigration across the Channel has gone up by 29% compared to last year. And I think it was a huge mistake of Labour to scrap the Rwanda deterrent before it even started. The first flight was due to take off on the 24th of July, and Labour cancelled it before that plane had a chance to leave. And I think if that had started, then we would see the numbers dramatically reducing.
Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you for another roundup in about half an hour. Now, though, it's over to Martin.
Thank you very much, Sam. Now, the Labour Party has caused an international furore, a huge backlash after Charlie Peters from GB News revealed it will block a full inquiry into the Oldham rape gang scandal. And Jess Phillips, Labour's safeguarding minister, insisted it was for Oldham Council alone to decide whether to launch an investigation into alleged exploitation between 2011 and 2014. But while Kemi Badenoch said a full national inquiry into rape gangs was long overdue, it's now come to light that the Tories had the chance to launch an inquiry in 2022, but they didn't do so. Now, earlier on, we spoke to GB News' national reporter who broke this exclusive story, Charlie Peters, and here's what he had to say.
Delay is a continuous part of a symptom of just ignoring this crisis that we've seen time and time again. Now, this delay is a continuous part of a symptom of just ignoring this crisis that we've seen time and time again. Now, Oldham Council made this request after many years of campaigning from survivors in the town and some politicians calling for a new independent inquiry because they were not satisfied with the one that was locally organised in 2022. Its terms of reference were too brief, 2011 to 2014. So many survivors in the town said and have told me that they don't believe it was sufficient. There's more to uncover, there's more to reveal. And in their letter to the Home Secretary and to the Home Office, requesting this review as voted on by the council, they say that, we don't think we can do this. We need the government to intervene. But in a letter that GB News has seen exclusively from Jess Phillips to the council executive, she says that she believes it's right for the council to organise their own inquiry. But that's the point, Martin. As I just said, they've done their own. It didn't complete a sufficient amount of recovery. It didn't look into the issue sufficiently, and it did not deliver that sense of justice, palpable justice that so many survivors feel as though they need. They always say justice delayed is justice denied.
That's Charlie Peters who broke that exclusive story, and I'm proud to say now I'm joined by the former Detective Constable of Greater Manchester Police, Maggie Oliver, the PLS campaigner, of course, the founder of the Maggie Oliver Foundation. Maggie, thank you so much for joining us today. Few, if anybody, have done as much work as yourself in the arena of making sure that this gets the public attention it so deserves. People are calling this decision shameful. I spoke to a Oldham Council whistleblower who's been pushing for this for many years earlier on. Elon Musk has called it disgraceful. What's your opinion on the safeguarding minister, Jess Phillips, blocking a full national inquiry into Oldham?
I've got many things to say. I mean, this has been my life for 20 years, Martin, this topic. I know it inside out. I fully understand why victims in Oldham feel that they have been let down by Andy Burnham's review, because there was only one actual victim that even spoke to the review team. They were blocked by Oldham Council. But I want to widen this debate out, because this is not a local problem. And what Jess Phillips has said, and Kemi Badenoch has waded in, the Conservatives were in power for many years. We had a national abuse inquiry, the ICSA abuse inquiry. I was a non-institutional core participant of that inquiry, which took 7 years, nearly £100 million, 20 recommendations, all of which have still not been implemented. So the issue is not whether there's going to be a national inquiry, it is who's going to lead it. What are we going to get out of it? Will it be a real attempt to uncover the truth? And in 20 years, Martin, all I have seen is this being a political hot potato being kicked around by successive governments who want to cover up the fact that we have a problem in this country. There has been no determination to uncover and address the issues, which are predominantly different opinions and different cultures believing that very young, vulnerable white children are fair game to rape and abuse. We have predators, paedophiles who have raped dozens of children who have still never been deported. You've just touched on this issue with a foreign national, a Romanian. But I was involved heavily in the Rochdale case and many others now, all through the country. Telford, Rotherham, Rochdale, Oldham, Oxford, every single town has the same issue. And yet I will focus on Rochdale because everybody knows it. The guys, the abusers who were convicted in that case, the judge ordered they be deported after they served their sentence. They've had millions in legal aid. They have fought deportation. We have allowed them to stay. They have given up their dual citizenship just before they came out of prison. They argue they're entitled to a family life. The whole system is broken. And this argument that's going on now is actually point scoring between different political parties, and it actually will fade away and nothing will happen. We need somebody who is going to take a grip. I know this subject inside out, and I want somebody who is not just going to, spout out empty words again, that is actually going to do something. So I am so happy, if that's the word, that Elon Musk has added his voice to this, because my voice, I feel like a broken record so often, keeps saying the same things and seeing the same hamster wheel that we're going round and round. And in the process, victims and children are being failed repeatedly, having their lives destroyed.
And Maggie Oliver, isn't part of the problem is that for decades, the uncomfortable truths were ignored. Worse, they were brushed under the carpet. The facts are the facts. White working class girls ostensibly were raped and tortured by ostensibly British, Pakistani Muslim men. And this scared the hell out of politicians, out of police forces, out of councils, out of the social services, out of the mainstream media. All of them didn't want to face up to it, and it was allowed to fester, and it was allowed to continue. And Maggie Oliver, I want to ask you something else. I think a lot of people think this is over, but I believe, and you know, this is still going on in Britain. It's still a stain on our national conscience. And do you have any faith that any political national inquiry has the teeth to actually deal with it?
I think that what we have now is a country that knows what is happening. We have got anger amongst ordinary, decent people that this is being allowed to continue. I mean, what I would say is that at the time in 2008, when Gordon Brown sent out a circular to all the police forces in the UK saying, do not prosecute these rape gangs. You know, these children are making a lifestyle choice. They are complicit in their abuse. At the time of that circular, Keir Starmer was the director of public prosecutions. So why are we going to ever believe that he will want to do anything about this? I would equally say that last year I met Rishi Sunak. He really didn't have much of a clue what was going on. Suella Braverman was with him, and she did understand. She was sacked. So we need somebody with teeth, somebody who is going to grasp this nettle and call it out for what it is. We have laws that we don't even really need to focus on the racial aspects, but there is a cultural issue here. But the laws in this country say that a 40, 50, 60-year-old man cannot have sex with a 12-year-old child. He should be in prison, and not for 2 years and walking out and picking up their life as though nothing has happened. I would throw the key away, deport them, make them serve their sentences in that most of these predators are Pakistani Muslim men, and that is a fact. The statistics don't show that because the authorities have never gathered the nationality of the predators because they don't want the facts to show this. I am not saying, Martin, that every child abuser in the UK is a Pakistani Muslim man, but this particular type of crime, you only have to look at the trials, at the court cases, you know, to show what is happening. I was involved in, Andy Burnham set up these independent reviews. The Augusta Review published in 2020. It was said that GMP, Greater Manchester Police, had failed in their duty to prosecute these abusers. They were made to reopen that case. We have now 6 years on from when those victims were reapproached. We have still not had one of those men charged. We had 5 senior officers that were referred to the IOPC for failing in their duty. Every one of those refused to be interviewed by the IOPC. They are still walking the streets, completely unaccountable, drawing their pensions as though they've done nothing wrong. We have got a whole catalogue of failures and corruption and cover-ups wrapped up in this issue. And I want to see somebody get a grip of it and do something, not just empty words, action, and talk to people who have lived through this, who understand it, who will really get a grip and do something. And I'm afraid that politicians are there for point scoring, not for action, as far as I have ever seen it.
Maggie Oliver, I think you're astonishing. I think you're incredible. You know, thank you so much for coming on the show, and thank you so much for carrying on. And, you know, we will endeavour to do our best here at GB News to keep up the pressure, and I know you will too. And thank you so much. And
I think GB News have done a spectacular job. Charlie, I know Charlie really well, and he has stuck with this. He knows this subject inside out, and it needs somebody to continue to dig deeper and to really stick with it, not a 5-minute snapshot, to continue with this issue, which destroys lives for many, many years.
OK, Maggie Oliver, we have to leave it there, but I assure you we're just getting started. Thank you very, very much for your work, and we'll be in touch soon. Now, we have a right of reply from the Home Office. A spokesman has said this: no child should ever suffer sexual abuse or exploitation, and everyone who is responsible for children's welfare must learn from past mistakes and do everything possible to prevent future failures. And the Safeguarding Minister, Jess Phillips, also responded to the Council's request, acknowledging the strength of feeling that a further inquiry into child sexual exploitation in Oldham should be undertaken. And in letters to the Council Executive, Phillips apologised for delays in responding, but maintained the local authorities should take the lead, saying this: it's for Oldham Council alone to decide to commission an inquiry into child sexual exploitation locally, rather than for the government to intervene. And she welcomed the Council's resolution to continue its work with victims and survivors. And GB News also understands that Oldham Council has since made contact with Telford, which face similar issues, to explore various inquiry options. OK, a bit of a change of gear here, because if you didn't get everything on your Christmas list in 2024, how about £50,000 in tax-free cash in this new year? It really could all be yours in our biggest ever Great British Giveaway. And here's all the details that you need to enter.
You could be joining the Great British Giveaway list of winners with your chance to grab a fantastic £50,000 in tax-free cash.
My name is Cliff. And my name is Julie. And we won 25,000. I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Coming next, after a terrorist killed 14 and hospitalised 35 others in New Orleans, the FBI have in this past hour confirmed it was a terrorist attack and that the individual was radicalised by the Islamic State. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Welcome back to Sunday with Michael Portillo. Well, drinkers have been warned about a drop in the quality of French wines after poor weather conditions hit this year's grape harvest. Winemakers across France will make 240 million fewer bottles of wine this year, the country's farming ministry said on Tuesday. So should we think of switching from French to English? I'm joined now by sommelier and founder of Inflorescence Wines, Jacinta Madison Williams. Hello, Jacinta.
Good morning.
Nice to see you. First of all, let's just think about the poor French. Has this been a fairly universal weather catastrophe for France?
It has. Kind of across the board, we're about 22% down on last year's crops, which is quite significant. I think it's like one of the 4 years over the last century that have been this low. So,
and it's affected both quality and quantity?
I would say more so quantity. There's always ways of counteracting quality. It depends if people are desperate to make wine. They can obviously push out more watered down grapes. There's been a lot of rain, if you hadn't noticed. Not only in France, we felt it here too. But lots of frost, supercell hailstorms have completely wiped out some crops. So in some cases, there's nothing to make. In other cases, it's just really watered down grapes and you want to pick earlier to make sure you're avoiding all those rains. But I would say more so it's quantity. But saying that, France is still the biggest producer of wine in the world. It might be taken over by Spain this year, but as a consumer, don't panic. We're not going to run out of wine. And we obviously have lots of lovely wine growing here now in England. So whether we do make a little jump for a bit to English wine, but there's definitely still lots out there.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. 5:25 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, after a terrorist killed 14 and hospitalised 35 others in New Orleans by driving a car and then firing a gun into New Year's revellers, the FBI has named the main suspect as Shamsun Dinjabajar, who previously served in the US Army. Now, US media sources say the FBI and New Orleans police no longer believe there are any other suspects involved in the truck attack. And they have also said that an Islamic State group flag was found in the vehicle and they are investigating the attack as an act of terrorism. Now, President Biden gave an address to the press conference overnight.
The FBI has reported to me the killer was an American citizen, born in Texas. He served in the United States Army on active duty for many years. He also served in the Army Reserve until a few years ago. The FBI also reported to me that mere hours before the attack, he posted videos on social media indicating that he was inspired by ISIS, expressing a desire to kill, The ISIS flag was found in his vehicle, which he rented to conduct this attack.
We're now joined by the counter-terrorism security consultant, Kevin Jewell. Kevin, welcome to the show. So we heard from the FBI. They gave a press conference around about an hour ago in New Orleans, and they said, let me be clear, this was an act of terrorism. It was premeditated and evil. We do not assess that anybody else was involved. But then Kevin went on to give key information about social media posts on the morning shortly before these atrocities were committed. 2 videos claiming directly that he posted that he supported the Islamic State, ISIS, and that he initially wanted to harm his family, but he didn't think that that would get the social media cut through. He said clearly this is a war between believers and disbelievers, and he stated that he joined the ISIS before this summer. So here we go. This is the full-blown now terrorist attack on American soil.
Indeed. Good evening, Martin. As you say, it's it can't be much more clear than a terrorist attack. The FBI, obviously, we're probably 36 hours further on now. Still a long way to go, and I've noticed that the FBI are still prefacing everything with, at the moment, what they know. So it's still fairly early days in the investigation. They know a lot more. There's an awful lot to find out still. So many unanswered questions as to, they're talking about radicalisation or joined ISIS in the summer, but what's happened? What was the trigger point there that made that happen? How long has he been planning this? Why that location? I think it's something about 575 miles from his home address. So why there? One hypothesis could be that area, particularly that street, is known for its bars and clubs. And going back to the reference around believers and non-believers, if it's an attack or an anti-Western attack, then obviously that sort of location with bars and the like is going to be a target for him.
And that's as good as working a hypothesis as any. I mean, Christmas markets are targeted because they are full of Christians at a Christian time of year. And yeah, New Year's Eve is full of people enjoying a night out and enjoying alcohol, perhaps something which perhaps his beliefs didn't chime with. They then went on to say, and this is where I'm keen to get your expertise as a counter-terrorism security consultant. They said they've recovered 3 mobile phones and 2 laptops from the vehicle and a property that he was believed to have rented out. So now they will be combing those, won't they, for any potential leads, any accomplices. And as you say, trying to get that timeline of what went wrong in this poisoned man's life. Where did he decide to convert to this deadly form of poisonous Islamism?
Absolutely. I mean, in this day and age, with all manner of crimes, you know, the digital forensics and the evidence available from those is absolutely key. It's interesting some of the things that the FBI didn't cover or aren't willing to share at the moment, and there will be a number of things. They're treading that fine line between public reassurance, helping or assisting the media that they've got a job to do. So reporting what they can, but there will be a lot of information that they are working on, and you know, it takes a long time to go through some of the digital equipment that he's got, such as the phones and the laptops. But as you say, on there will be, you know, his history as to what sites he's visited, has he been in communication, right up to the fact that, you know, when did he stop and do the posts, all those sorts of things. What was the route that he took, which I can tell from telephone inquiries. So an awful lot of evidence and information to be gained from that. And you know, it's very early days, and this sort of investigation will go on for months. And again, the FBI said at the moment that they don't think anyone else is involved. You know, at some stage, he's been radicalised. Personally, I wouldn't be surprised if some other people at least knew of the intentions, not necessarily kind of operation, if you like, were assisting him. But yeah, there's a fair bit of planning gone into this, and these things don't just happen overnight.
And a fascinating part of this is that initially the perpetrator who died in that explosion in Las Vegas when the Cybertruck blew up outside the Trump Hotel was believed to have served in the same army regiment, and yet the FBI is saying that these two events are unconnected. So a lot of questions to ask there. 400 pieces, 400 tip-offs they received so far. And yesterday, Kevin, Jill, we were talking about reports that the Islamic State media in the Middle East and the Far East were urging Islamists across the West to rise up specifically on New Year's Eve to take part in targeted attacks. So that's the kind of information they'll be looking for. Did he receive that kind of prompt? Was he looking at that kind of poisonous media? What were the external fingers, if you like, coming into his life from those corrosive forces overseas?
I think what we've got to consider is that if someone's going to carry out an attack, they want to have maximum impact in a short space of time as possible. So, to say things don't happen overnight, planning-wise, why he's gone there, but lots of people, it's going to have that significant impact. With regard to kind of coordinated about being told when to do it, you know, for the last few years, we've seen the fact that ISIS have called for people to either use knives, vehicles, do what they can for the cause, as they would put it, and they generally leave it to the person's time of their choosing. But you know, underlying it all is the very fact that we're talking about it, because they want to have maximum impact, and will I don't particularly like using the word, but a kind of soft targets as to where they can do that.
Yeah, and a key line that came out of the FBI press conference was this individual's own words: "This is a war between believers and disbelievers." Thank you very much for joining us on the show today. That's the counter-terrorism security consultant, Kevin Jill. Thank you very much for joining us today. And moving on, there's lots more still to come between now and 6 o'clock, including Sir Keir Starmer has been rocked by a local revolt after 20 councillors in Broxtowe, my part of the world, Nottinghamshire, quit the Labour Party in protest about the Prime Minister's leadership direction. But first, here's your headlines, and it's Sam Francis.
Very good evening to you. 5:32. The top story tonight, as we've been hearing, a truck attack in New Orleans on New Year's Day has now been confirmed as an act of terrorism. Authorities say 15 people were killed, including the attacker, Shamsuddin Jabbar, who died in a shootout with police. An IS flag was found in his vehicle, and while no group has claimed responsibility, supporters of the Islamic State are widely celebrating online. The FBI says it's now reviewing hundreds of hours of surveillance footage and over 400 public tip-offs. The identities of the victims, including a former Princeton football star and an aspiring nurse, are still being confirmed. Well, meanwhile, a deadly explosion outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas is also being investigated, but there's no definitive link to the incident in New Orleans, according to the FBI. That blast, caused by a Tesla Cybertruck filled with fuel canisters and fireworks, killed the driver and injured 7 others, though their identities remain undisclosed at this stage. The FBI director has now confirmed the investigation is ongoing, but says it's still in its very early stages. In the wake of the attack, incoming President Donald Trump took to his social media platform Truth Social and blamed the nation's open borders and vowed to stop the chaos under his leadership. 20 councillors in Nottinghamshire have quit Labour, accusing the party under Sir Keir Starmer of abandoning traditional values. The group from Bruxtowe Borough Council, after 42 years in Labour, now plans to form a new independent party and run a minority administration. They've criticised Labour's policies, including cutting winter fuel allowances and plans to scrap local councils in favour of so-called super councils. A local Labour spokesperson has called the move incredibly disappointing, while councillors said 100 grassroots members have also resigned. And Kemi Badenoch is calling for a national inquiry into the UK's rape gang scandal, saying justice for victims is long overdue. Her plea comes after Labour's safeguarding minister insisted it was for Oldham Council alone to decide whether to launch an investigation into exploitation between 2011 and 2014. Even Elon Musk has attacked that decision, claiming Jess Phillips deserves prison, he said, and accused Sir Keir Starmer of inaction as Director of Public Prosecutions. But Labour says it is working to implement recommendations from the 2022 independent inquiry into child sexual abuse, pledging to strengthen the laws to protect victims. Those are the latest headlines. A full roundup at 6 o'clock, and Martin will be straight back with you after this short break.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello, time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Overnight it's going to be cold again, a hard frost for many. Ice is a big risk across parts of Northern Ireland, Western Scotland and northwest England, and snow showers will continue to come in on a northerly wind across northern Scotland, particularly as this weather front moves in, bringing some heavy snow for a time over Shetland and Orkney, and increasingly we'll see that wet weather working into the mainland through the night. So we could see a few centimetres of snow building up over that northeastern corner of Scotland. Further west, it does turn a little milder. And so most of the showers here, certainly over low levels, will be of rain. But that could turn things very slippery across northwest England, Northern Ireland and western Scotland as those showers come in and temperatures tumble. In the south, it stays dry, but it's going to be a cold one here. It could get as low as -6 or 7 in the countryside. So into Friday morning, still some snow showers coming in across the northeast, a mixture of rain and hail for a time at low levels, but chiefly they will be of snow. The showers further west are going to be more of a mixture with some rain here, but potential for those icy conditions on the roads with temperatures hovering around freezing for the morning commute across northwest England, parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland. Further south, it will be cold, it will be frosty, but it should by and large be sunny for a good chunk of the day. A few of the showers will filter south during the day into parts of North Wales. The showers, though, particularly in western areas, will mostly be of rain, a bit of hill snow possible. Further snow flurries, though, likely in the far northeast. Much of the south stays dry and sunny. Everywhere it stays pretty chilly for the time of year, with temperatures a few degrees below average after starting off well below zero. Low pressure then sweeps in for the weekend. This is going to be a real mishmash, bringing a spell of snow across the south, but it shouldn't last too long. But as it hits the colder air over the Midlands, Wales, Northern England, southern Scotland, that snow could really build up. There'll be some freezing rain as well. So warnings are in place for this weekend. Check the Met Office website for full details.
The latest GB News travel.
Good afternoon, I'm Jules Buckley. Issues still north of Newcastle, the A189 closed for burst water main between Dudley and the Findus roundabout in Westmoor. The Manchester Airport Relief Road remains closed because of flooding, and the Liverpool Road in Platt Bridge in Greater Manchester. That's the A58 for the same reason. That is impassable. Now there's queues on the southbound M42 this afternoon, just heading between junctions 2 and 1, so that's the Hopwood Park services and the Bromsgrove turn-off. Lane 1's combed off and slow going at the scene of of a collision. Somerset northbound M5 very slow just after Bridgewater South. At junction 24, there's a queue back to Taunton 25, all for a collision on the hard shoulder now. And the northbound A1M blocked at junction 8 Hitchin up to Letchworth at 9 in queuing. That's due to a collision there. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Welcome back. It's 5:39 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, Sir Keir Starmer has been sensationally rocked by a local council revolt after 20 councillors quit the Labour Party in protest about the Prime Minister's leadership direction. The group of councillors who sit on Broxtowe Borough Council in my home county of Nottinghamshire, they accuse Starmer of abandoning traditional Labour values. I'm joined now in the studio by GB News' political editor, Chris Hope. Chris, an incredible revolt. Tell us more.
A big blow here. The Broxtowe Council has been rocked by 20 councillors leaving. They're forming their own group. They are protesting, they say here, about the cutting of the winter fuel allowance for 11 million pensioners, the retention of the two-child benefit cap for struggling families, the increase in bus fares from £2 the cap to £3 the cap across the country, the betrayal of WASPy women and what they call a tepid response to the genocide in Gaza. They say that's not what they campaigned for in the Labour Party. Moments ago, we've spoken to the leader of this new independent group, Milan Radulovic, and here's what he had to say to GB News moments ago.
And my conscience says that I am a locally elected representative. I've been a Broxtowe Borough Councillor since 1986. I've been leader for 22 years, and I've dedicated a large part of my life to the service of local people. And to see those freedoms, to see the opportunity to represent those local communities and fight for our share of resources being totally ignored by a centralist control who do nothing but protect the establishment and the elite, who hoard all the wealth, and see what privileges we do get taken away from us disgusts me.
Wow. That's your quite wow. That's Milan Radulovic. Now, that's speaking exclusively to GB News, and he's later on our Farrow show tonight. I'm presenting for GB News. He'll be on the show. I think he'll be chucking a few bombs at the Labour Party over the concern they've got about the direction of this party. So many people now on the Labour side saying, is this really what we voted for? I mean, I guess some would say those big tax increases are what they may be supporting on the Labour side, but there are areas that the government is not doing, and it's concerning for them.
Chris, call me a cynic. May could be a wipeout for the Labour Party. I know Broxtowe. It's next to Ashfield. Now, this is an area where the Reform Party will be sniffing around trying to pick up a lot of council seats. Is the Labour brand now so toxic in those areas? He's bang on about the constituency issue. They will be. But they don't want to be badged as the Labour Party because they know they get annihilated.
Nottinghamshire is a mining country. Your dad was a miner, Martin. Right. This could be the canary in the mine for Labour in that area. We're expecting, I understand, a big speech from Keir Starmer on Monday. It's obviously Thursday day on Monday, talking about, we think, probably one of those big milestones he set up for himself, maybe the NHS, where half the money raised by the tax increase in the budget is going on. So he's trying to move the debate onto the benefits of a Labour government being in power. But this is really concerning, I think, to have 20 councillors walk away. Don't forget, tomorrow night, by the way, Reform UK holding a big event in the East Midlands. That'll be a big moment when they try and present themselves as the party with momentum, despite only having 5 MPs in Parliament.
I wonder if this might be a taste of defections to come, because I think it could be a bloodbath in May. It sincerely could be around the winter fuel allowance, around WASPy, in rural areas, farming constituencies. The Labour Party candidates must be absolutely quaking in their boots. Is this an early manoeuvre of people thinking, do you know what, we're going to get wiped out. It's best not to be Labour anymore.
Well, in this statement here, it's five or six paragraphs long, they twice mention the May 2025 local election. They say here that they will be a party that prioritises the needs of everyone in their community, will be standing candidates in the May 2025 local elections and campaign for every vote in every street, in every town. There's no question that increasingly the May local elections, where they take place, some may not take place because of a local council shake-up. Where they take place, that will be seen as a referendum on this government.
I've got a very quick statement I need to read out from the local Broxtowe Labour Party in response to that defection. They said it's incredibly disappointing that some Broxtowe councillors have decided to leave the Labour Party and sit as independents when they were elected on a Labour ticket just over 18 months ago. These defections have no effect on the commitment of the remaining Labour councillors in serving our residents. We, together with our Labour colleagues, including MPs Juliet Campbell and Alex Norris, will continue to work to make Broxtowe a healthier, greener, safer and more prosperous place for everyone as change begins under this Labour government. Chris, quickly back to you. There's been some more political fallout along the lines of the Oldham inquiry cancelled by Labour.
That's right. Well, hasn't been granted by Labour. Labour have been saying in a statement this afternoon that there have been independent reviews locally in Telford, Rotherham and Greater Manchester. It's turned into a national political issue because of course, Jess Phillips, the Safeguarding Minister, has said there will not be a public inquiry. Now, the Tory party has written today, Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, Elisa Cairns, the Shadow Safeguarding Minister, writing to Yvette Cooper saying there should be a statutory public inquiry. Only that could adequately encompass, they say, the national nature of these crimes and issues and look at the police, CPS, council handling and also the power to summon witnesses and obtain written evidence. You might think that's where the Tory party should be, but also what's emerged today, this afternoon, is a letter here from Amanda Soloway, at the time the Conservative Safeguarding Minister, saying here why the Tory government will not do a public inquiry. As ever, for me, the victims are being let down shamefully, frankly, by the two main parties.
Fantastic stuff. Great exclusive there, and you can get the full interview with you on Farrell tonight, 7 till 8 p.m. So
and Chris Philp too on the show.
And Chris Philp, so much for a happy new year. So into a happy new nightmare for the Labour Party. It's only the 2nd of January. Chris Hope, thank you very, very much. Now, if your New Year's resolution was to try and give up your obsession with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, then you might be out of luck, because after posting a cryptic Instagram message, it seems Meghan is back. Did she ever go away? I'm Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, here's your latest winter sun forecast for GB News. Over the next few days, things will be turning more unsettled across southern parts of Europe. We'll see a few showers across the Canary Islands and Madeira on Friday, some sunshine too. Sunshine for southern parts of Spain, rain further north, and as we head into central and southeastern parts of Europe, much more in the way of unsettled weather here. Plenty of rain around, some snow on the hills, and temperatures will be struggling in places too. As for the next few days into the weekend and the start of next week, we hold on to that mixed theme, plenty of sunshine but further showers at times as well.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
3 incredible young people from Essex are planning to become the youngest people ever to row, not sail, row, across the Atlantic Ocean.
It's about for 3,000 miles.
It is.
Give or take.
Almost exactly that, Sam.
The 3 flying fish, so-called, consists of Anna, Dunk, Harry, Alan and Rowan Daly, who are preparing to row that 3,000 miles across the Atlantic. It would be the 2nd largest ocean in the world. And the trio are aiming to do that challenge in support of the Teenage Cancer Trust.
Well, I'm very pleased to say that Anna and Harry from the Flying Fish join us now. Very good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
I think the two of you are bonkers, but brilliant. Absolutely incredible what you're doing to raise money for Teenage Cancer Trust. Why did you want to do this?
So our third person, Rowan, his friend actually died. So when he was in secondary school, I believe, one of his peers passed away, and Teenage Cancer Trust supported them and their family a lot. So it was definitely the right charity. Yeah, it was.
Absolutely awful. So you wanted to do something to raise money for teenage cancer. Why rowing?
So my dad did it in 2021.
The trip, the Atlantic trip?
Yeah, he rowed it as a pair. Where we live in Essex, they actually build the boats there. So we used to cycle round there past the boatyard, and he got interested and actually did it. He was the first year after COVID. And one night, we all met in the Air Cadets, so one night after Air Cadets, Rowan actually dropped me off home and the boat was outside. We were obviously waiting to get it sold. And I think he was asking some questions and we stood there at my porch and Rowan said, I reckon we could do that. And I was like, yeah, I reckon we could. And then we brought Harry on board, and that's kind of how it all came together.
If people are watching and they want to support you, do you have a
Yeah, we've got
GoFundMe page
social
yet?
media platforms at
Right.
The Free Flying Fish. That's Facebook, Instagram and TikTok, and our GoFundMe links in all of the bios on there.
Fantastic. GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 5:49 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, guess who's back? In case they ever went away, Meghan Markle has decided to relaunch in 2025. She posted on her Instagram account this morning, "I've been so excited to share this with you. I hope you love the show as much as I love making it. Wishing you all a fantastic new year. Thanks to our amazing crew and the team at Netflix." Because here, guess what? She's using her Instagram account to promote her new Netflix show. We've all been played. Ian Lloyd, the royal writer and the photographer, joins us now. Ian, Happy New Year to you. She's at it again. She's on Manoeuvres, the cryptic message. We were all analysing what could it all mean. Turns out it's something very easy, very cynical. She's got a new show to promote and she's using her account to get us all gossiping. And we've been pulled into it, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that video of her running through the across the beach takes me back 40 years ago to Bo Derek doing it in the film 10. I don't know whether you've ever heard of that, but the only thing missing was Ravel Valero and Dudley Moore. But it's also similar to the one on that Kate did, the Princess of Wales. When she was recovering from cancer, she showed a video of them with the family. That was very interesting because that was about a group, if you like. The setting was deeply symbolic on the beach. It demonstrated the strength she got from family and loved ones, and that she was spending time on things that made her happy. Whereas Meghan's is more me. There's no sign of Harry and there's no sign of the family. And like you say, it was cryptic. We were waiting for this great announcement, but would it be a super product or what? But yeah, another Netflix one that, I mean, the track record hasn't been brilliant on Netflix, has it, really?
They think it might just cut a lot of the kind of fluff out of this entire conversation if Meghan Markle just went back to acting. Now, there's a new series of Suits coming out. Just go back to your old life. Now, she was rather good at that. Drop all the pretense that you're a pretend royal. Just go back to being a soap opera star and be done with it.
Yeah, you've got to be incredibly businesslike and savvy. I mean, some people could do it. In my early days, I photographed Liz Taylor when she came to London promoting her scent, Passion and White Diamonds. And she was actually a very astute businesswoman. I did a book on Liz Taylor many years ago, so I know that. And but she was very clued up, and I don't think the Sussexes are, and they're open to getting manipulated by unscrupulous people in the same way that Prince Andrew is, I mean, they're just not clued up for it, really.
I wonder if people are going to fall for this anymore. I mean, look, we're talking about it. We're giving it publicity. We're giving it the oxygen. But I wonder if a lot of the people who go in and watch this sort of stuff are actually going in just to kind of troll it, if you like, just because it feeds their kind of inner desire to get a bit frothing at the mouth about Meghan Markle. But the viewing figures seem to speak for themselves. Nobody seems to be watching this stuff, and they seem to keep losing all of their commercial deals with Netflix because, let's face it, what they put out is a load of vanilla nonsense.
But, I mean, within an hour, apparently, her followers jumped from 117,000 to 176,000. So we'd all give, our eye teeth for that kind of following. And clued up, she could get, one expert said she could get something like £790,000 per post, if she really, again, was clued up, if it really worked. But whether that will ever happen, God knows. I mean, it hasn't so far. God loves a tryer, but...
I mean, don't rule it out, Ian Lloyd. I mean, influencers, what a lifestyle aspiration that is. They do get paid per post. They get monetised. They get sponsored. They get commercialised. I can see that that's where this is going. I can see Meghan Markle is using her royal halo just to attract the money machine and become actually just quite a tawdry commercial vehicle. Am I being cynical?
Well, I mean, it's likely to happen in that way because the other avenues they've gone down have documentaries and the podcasts haven't worked terribly well, so they need a product to sell. If they can get that product and it works, she could be the new Martha Stewart. But who knows? We'll just have to wait and see.
Okay, superb stuff. Ian Lloyd, the Royal Riot House photographer, a great friend of the show. Thanks for joining us and a very, very happy new year to you.
And to you, Mark.
Now, that's all from me today, but don't worry, because up next is Jubes & Co., the fiercest debate show in town. And it's with Miriam Cates tonight. And don't forget, at 7 p.m, Farrell tonight is with Chris Hope. Chopper has a sensational exclusive interview with the defector, the guy who went from the Labour Party to an independent in Broxo. 20 councillors sensationally quit on the same day. The question I've got is, are you jumping because you know you're going to get wiped out in the local elections in May? I'll be back tomorrow. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News. Now, here's your weather. Have a great evening.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Overnight, it's going to be cold again. A hard frost for many. Ice is a big risk across parts of Northern Ireland, Western Scotland and northwest England. And snow showers will continue to come in on a northerly wind across northern Scotland, particularly as this weather front moves in, bringing some heavy snow for a time over Shetland and Orkney. And increasingly, we'll see that wet weather working into the mainland through the night. So we could see a few centimetres of snow building up over that northeastern corner of Scotland. Further west, it does turn a little milder. And so most of the showers here, certainly over low levels, will be of rain. But that could turn things very slippery across northwest England, Northern Ireland and western Scotland as those showers come in and temperatures tumble. In the south, it stays dry, but it's going to be a cold one here. It could get as low as -6 or 7 in the countryside. So into Friday morning, still some snow showers coming in across the northeast, a mixture of rain and hail for a time at low levels, but chiefly they will be of snow. The showers further west are going to be more of a mixture with some rain here, but potential for those icy conditions on the roads with temperatures hovering around freezing for the morning commute across northwest England, parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland. Further south, it will be cold, it will be frosty, but it should by and large be sunny for a good chunk of the day. A few of the showers will filter south during the day into parts of North Wales. The showers, though, particularly in western areas, will mostly be of rain, a bit of hill snow possible. Further snow flurries, though, likely in the far northeast. Much of the south stays dry and sunny. Everywhere it stays pretty chilly for the time of year, with temperatures a few degrees below average after starting off well below zero. Low pressure then sweeps in for the weekend. This is going to be a real mishmash, bringing a spell of snow across the south, but it shouldn't last too long. But as it hits the colder air over the Midlands, Wales, Northern England, southern Scotland, that snow could really build up. There'll be some freezing rain as well. So warnings are in place for this weekend. Check the Met Office website for full details.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good evening, I'm Johnny Ratner. Problems in Tyne in Weir to the north of Newcastle. The A189 remains shut in Westmore and Dudley after a water main burst. In Hertfordshire, the A1M is partly blocked northbound from junction 8 to 9 just north of Stevenage after an accident where recovery work continues. And the M32 is down to a single lane heading into Bristol from junction 2 to 3 at the scene of a crash. Long queues back onto the M4. In Worcestershire on the M42 southbound, the inside lane's closed from junction 2 to 1 from Alvechurch to Bromsgrove following a collision, and it's still really slow on the M5 northbound in Somerset after an accident which is now on the hard shoulder just after junction 24 at Bridgewater South. Queues back to Taunton. Onto the trains and buses replace northern services between Ashbury's and New Mills Central, diverting by Woodley between Manchester, Piccadilly and Sheffield because of flooding. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
There's still plenty of time to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize ever, an incredible £50,000. What would you spend £50,000 on in the coming year? Spectacular holidays, a brand new car, home improvements, or maybe you'd just like to save it for a special occasion? For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, it's 6 p.m. and you're watching